I have been diagnosed with a terminal illness for less than 3 minutes, and my 3 filthy rich sisters don't lift a finger to help. Instead, they vote to throw me out. But when they see me reunite with my biological sister, every single one of them regrets it. They beg me, in tears, to come back. But it is already too late standing there, hearing the doctor's verdict. With your condition, you likely won't make it past a year. My mind goes completely blank, filled with nothing but a dull roar. My legs feel like lead. As I walk out of the hospital, my pocket buzzes, and I reach for my phone on instinct. I see Vivian's name on the screen. My heart gives a sudden, unexpected jolt. I never thought she would remember my checkup today. She has always snapped at me for no reason, but right now, even this small gesture feels like enough. Viv, the doctor said, but I don't even get to finish. Vivian cuts me off, her impatience sharp and instant. It doesn't matter what the doctor said. I'm calling to tell you one thing. Your biological mother has been found, so don't ever call us your sisters again, and never set foot in Moore Estate again. You were never our real brother. Vivian doesn't bother to hide a single word of it. Her voice is ice cold, laced with undisguised contempt, and in one blow she answers a question that has haunted me for years. Vivian is Riverdale's wealthiest tycoon. Ruthless and untouchable Melody is an A-list star, the reigning queen of pop. I have spent years walking on eggshells, trying to earn their approval, and all along, I was just an adopted child. Now that their real brother has been found, they don't want to pretend for even one more second, so they make this call right away and kick me into the gutter without a second thought. Vivian expects that once the truth is out, I will fall apart from the shock, maybe even scream and lose control. Then she can deliver the final blow in an even colder tone, forcing me to face reality and accept that we belong to completely different worlds. But I simply say, okay, calm and quiet, and accept it all. That catches Vivian off guard, but only for a moment. After all, this saves her the trouble of a severance payment. Vivian pulls her thoughts back together and turns her focus to welcoming their real brother. As for what I, the placeholder, am feeling, nobody cares. After that heartless call ends, Butler Hayes knocks and steps into the room. He hands Vivian the outfits prepared for the upcoming banquet. Every piece is crafted by the finest tailors in the country. The matching jewelry alone runs into the tens of millions. Whatever guilt Vivian has left vanishes on the spot, giving someone who could never have touched high society years of this kind of luxury. The Moore family owes Ethan nothing. Hayes, I want a bowl of noodles. Same as always. Butler Hayes hesitates for just a moment, then nods and heads off without a word. 15 minutes later, he sets the bowl in front of her. Vivian takes one bite and frowns. Hayes, did you check the kitchen ingredients today? Butler Hayes catches the displeasure in her voice. He had assumed it was just a simple bowl of noodles that any cook could handle. But clearly, he was wrong. Vivian is not satisfied at all. Butler Hayes thinks for a moment and says, the ingredients are fine. I checked them myself. Everything was in order. It might be because Ethan was the one who used to make this for you. The taste is just slightly different now. I'll have the chef adjust it right away. Vivian stops him immediately. What do you mean by that? I've been having noodles every morning for over a year now. Don't tell me Ethan made all of them. Butler Hayes nods. Vivian freezes. Then her voice takes on a faint note of reproach. No matter what you think of Ethan, he was still a member of this household. How could you let him do something like this? Butler Hayes quickly explains, you had that stretch where your stomach was giving you trouble, and you couldn't keep anything down. When Ethan found out, he spent several days experimenting in the kitchen on his own, until he got the noodles just right. Then he asked me to bring them to you. Vivian waves her hand to stop him. This is genuinely the first she has heard of it. She feels a small flicker of something, but it fades almost instantly, replaced by a sense that it was only natural after all. Everything Moore Estate has given Ethan far outweighs a bowl of noodles. Meanwhile, I make my way to my biological mother's home. All along the road leading there, I see utility poles and trees near her door plastered everywhere with missing person flyers bearing my face. This is the room. Helen's voice trembles slightly as she speaks. The room is small but spotlessly clean. A white tablecloth with printed orchids is spread neatly across the table. It is the brightest room in the whole house, kept empty and waiting, just for me. My eyes sting with tears. She never gave up looking for me. She always kept a place for me here. And for the first time in years, I feel like I finally have a home at noon. I sit down with Sunny, who is still in elementary school, and Helen, sharing a home-cooked meal I have missed for so long. Helen just looks at me. For a long, long time, she still remembers those first few days after I disappeared, when day and night lost all meaning to her. She barely stopped for a single breath, putting up tens of thousands of missing person flyers in every corner of this city. But the phone never rang sometimes. Walking past storefronts on the street, she would catch a reflection in the glass and think she saw my face. I'm so glad. I finally have you back. At that moment, Sunny sees the rare smile on her mother's face and goes still for just a second. Then she breaks into a bright smile too. After lunch, Sunny clears the dishes without being asked and rolls up her sleeves at the sink like a little pro. I jump up to help her. Thank you. She had been too shy to say it during the meal, but now, Sunny finally lets it out. Thank you, big brother. Those two words wash over me like warmth back at Moore Estate. Even when I sat on the same sofa as them, we might as well have been in two completely different worlds in this moment. I make a quiet vow to myself, and whatever time I have left, I will not let Helen or Sunny suffer one more day. That night before bed, I get a voice message from Helen. Are you getting used to the food here? I'll pick up some pork ribs tomorrow and make a proper meal. I smile and send a voice message back. Sounds great, Mom. That single word, Mom, makes Helen go still. And then the tears come. She had been afraid, deep down that I would look down on such a poor home, but that fear is completely gone now. There are so many good days ahead of us. The next morning, Vivian is up at her usual hour. The moment she stirs, the entire estate staff springs into motion. Everyone knows exactly where they need to be, and within 5 minutes, her makeup artist is already at the door throughout the session. She thinks about Xavier, her real brother, who is coming home soon. She needs to clear out Ethan's things before Xavier arrives, every last item, so Xavier won't have to look at any of it. But then a question surfaces: where exactly was Ethan's room? 10 minutes later, Vivian follows Butler Hayes outside the main building. The lake reflects the scenery around it like a mirror. Soft green lawns stretch far into the distance. Tall poplar trees line the path, and birdsong and blossoms fill the air. All of it maintained daily by 3 landscape artists, each earning a 7-figure annual salary. Vivian thinks to herself that without her luck, 100 years of hard work wouldn't get anyone a place like this. But as they keep walking, Vivian suddenly notices something is off. "Hayes, didn't I ask you to take me to Ethan's room?" Butler Hayes nods and raises his white-gloved right hand, pointing ahead. "This is where young Master Ethan used to live." Vivian stares. "Isn't that the staff quarters?" Then it comes back to her. She was the one who arranged it. Years ago, she had decided that since Ethan wasn't a real Moore, letting him grow up surrounded by this kind of luxury would likely turn him into a spoiled wreck. The Moore family had more than enough money and didn't worry about spending it. But in the eyes of the outside world, Ethan still carried the Moore name, and she refused to let his behavior embarrass the family. So she made the call, raise him lean, but all these years had passed and Ethan had never once asked to move. Vivian finds it hard to believe she had never truly treated him as a brother. Otherwise, she would never have forgotten where he slept, but still he was her brother in name. If he had ever spoken up, how could she have refused? Butler Hayes hears this and seems to hold something back over the years. Even he, an outsider, could see it clearly. Vivian's contempt for Ethan ran bone deep. So many times, Ethan had come to her full of excitement, wanting to share something from school, a funny story, a good grade. Before he could even speak, she would cut him off without a second thought. Even when Butler Hayes tried to update Vivian about Ethan, he would get caught in the crossfire, ordered to be quiet, as she snapped that she didn't want to hear a single word about Ethan ever again. Butler Hayes understood growing up in that kind of environment, and being the kind of quietly mature child he was, Ethan chose to swallow every grievance in silence, rather than risk upsetting Vivian. Something in Butler Hayes' expression makes Vivian pause, but someone like her would never admit to anything. None of that matters now. He's gone. And the staff quarters may not be the main building, but they're still far better than what any average middle-class family has. She tells herself this with complete conviction. Then Vivian follows Butler Hayes into the building, and they make their way to the room where I used to live. As she descends the stairs, she stops cold. She could never have imagined that the boy who bore the Moore name was living in a basement. She is about to turn on Butler Hayes when the memory comes rushing back. Hayes had originally set up a guest room in the main building for Ethan. It was Vivian who refused and ordered him to move to the North Wing instead. But the North Wing was entirely staff quarters with no spare rooms available, so Ethan had simply been put here. The room is not small. The furniture is adequate, but the moment Vivian steps inside, she is hit by a chill, a damp cold that seeps right through her. For the first time, she feels a thread of genuine guilt. The boy she had lived alongside for years, her brother in name, had been living worse than a regular member of staff. As she absently sorts through the things in the room, Vivian finds a collection of items in the drawer: a broken remote control car, worn-out building blocks, and a watch with hands that stopped long ago. At first, she sneers, an outsider to the end couldn't even throw out this worthless junk. But when she looks at the watch again, she goes still. If her memory is right, this is the watch she casually tossed to Ethan years ago. She never imagined that after all this time, even after its hands stopped moving, he had kept it like something precious. It dawns on her that the other items in that drawer were probably things her sisters had casually handed him over the years. She never expected that things given away so thoughtlessly could have meant so much to him. Vivian had planned to throw it all out, but something, maybe a flicker of guilt, stops her. She decides to return the items to Ethan. Instead, call it a final goodbye part on civil terms. After packing the old items into a storage box, she finds a stack of papers tucked at the back of the drawer. She pulls them out. They are financial aid applications. Her brow furrows. She is genuinely confused. "Hayes, didn't I have you send him a monthly allowance? Why was he so broke that he had to apply for financial aid?" She doesn't mean anything deep by it. She just finds it embarrassing that someone living under the Moore roof was going to school to beg for pocket money. It would look like the Moore family was mistreating him. But as soon as the words leave her mouth, she thinks of her own decision to raise him lean. The allowance she gave him was nowhere near what a wealthy household would provide. It was barely what an ordinary family would give, $2,000 a month. But even so, even on just $2,000, he shouldn't have been broke enough to need financial aid. Butler Hayes lowers his head and explains the $2,000 was delivered every month, on time. Every single month. But once, Ethan quietly borrowed a sum from me. He said it was urgent, that he needed it for your birthday gift. I felt for him, so I told him not to worry about paying it back. But he paid me back every cent. He scraped it together and returned it not long after. That may be why. The words hit Vivian like a sudden wave. All these years, every single birthday, Ethan had put thought into a gift for her. But because those gifts looked like they came off a street market stall, she would toss them in the trash the very next day, and yet, looking down from her height, she had forgotten that Ethan was never a true Moor. Those cheap, worthless-looking things to him were the very best he could give. As it happens, I run into Vivian that morning. When she sees me, she stops for just a beat. Wait, don't go. I have something for you. I walk on, as if I heard nothing, without slowing down for even a step. Vivian is visibly thrown in her world. Ethan had always done whatever she said without question, without hesitation. Why is he suddenly so cold? Vivian frowns, but doesn't dwell on it. She takes the old storage box from her assistant. Ethan, these are your things from your old room. There's more in the car, the less important stuff. I'll have someone drop it all off at your place on the way. At that, I finally stop. I take the box from her, flip it open, and glance inside. Thank you, Ms. Moore. Before Vivian can recover from those words, she witnesses something that leaves her speechless. I drop the entire box straight into the trash. By the time she pulls herself together, the boy who was once her brother is already gone nearby. Assistant Sean watches this unfold and speaks up, indignant. And you came all this way to return his things in person. Should have just thrown all that junk out yourself. The Moore family raised him for years, put him through one of the top universities in the country, and never once treated him unfairly. And he shows not a shred of gratitude. How dare he treat you like that? He's nothing but an ungrateful wretch. Vivian is not listening to any of it. The moment she heard me call her Ms. Moore, something told her she had lost something she could never get back, but that vague, nameless feeling of loss is quickly swallowed by a surge of rage. She can no longer hold down. The only reason she lowered herself to come here at all was because she believed, deep down, that I still thought of her as family, and that was why I had treasured things she tossed aside without a thought. But after what she has just witnessed, Vivian tells herself, she now sees exactly who I really am. It convinces her that the decision she and her sisters made to throw me out was absolutely the right call. What Vivian conveniently forgets is how many times, in public, when I called her by name, she had pretended not to know me at all, how many times she had talked down to me, and ordered me to address her differently in certain settings, warning me that being called family in public was an embarrassment to her. Now that I have done exactly what she always wanted, she finds herself completely unhappy about it. Seeing the fury on Vivian's face, Assistant Sean keeps fanning the flames. Since he has no shame left anyway, if that ungrateful wretch ever comes crawling back, we turn him away without a second glance. People would kill for a chance to climb this high, and he just throws it away. He's going to regret this for the rest of his life. Listening to all of this, Vivian feels the edge of her anger begin to dull. You're right. He'll regret this. Absolutely. Then Vivian turns to the bag her assistant is holding. She remembers it contains more of my old things, and plans to pull them out and throw every last one away. Before long, she pulls out a stack of old documents. Worried her own papers might be mixed in, she flips through them carelessly. Inside are financial aid applications from my university years, and report cards spanning my entire life. When Vivian sees the report cards, her eyes narrow almost involuntarily. She never expected that Ethan's academic record was this strong, nearly always at the top of his class, and a score of 680 on his college entrance exam. Vivian is genuinely taken aback. She had never paid the slightest attention to his grades. Until this moment, she had assumed his place at a top university was bought by the Moore family's annual donations. But looking at this, he earned every bit of it on his own. A quiet sense of waste crosses Vivian's mind. A score like that puts him within reach of a provincial top ranker. Setting everything else aside purely as a talent worth investing in, Ethan had real potential. But what's done is done. There's no point dwelling on it with enough money. Top students like him are easy to find. Vivian keeps searching through the bag and pulls out several medical exam reports. She almost laughs, thinking Ethan must be terrified of dying to have gotten checked out this many times at his age. And just yesterday on that call, she heard him mention a doctor. Curious, she opens one of the reports to see what he was actually being examined for. It is a checkup record from when he was 16. When she reads what is written there, Vivian goes completely still. The attending physician has written clearly, patient reports frequent heart palpitations and low-grade fever over the past 2 weeks, along with dry heaving. Initial assessment pointing to malnutrition-induced liver damage. Final diagnosis, hepatitis. Vivian stares at the page, stunned. How is that possible? Every meal at Moore Estate is designed by a certified nutritionist. How could anyone living there be malnourished? Then it hits her. She had never once allowed Ethan to eat at the same table as them. There was a time, years ago, when all the sisters came home to the estate, and Ethan had gone out of his way to stock the kitchen with ingredients and spent hours cooking a full spread. That time, Vivian had almost made an exception and let him sit with them, but 2 unexpected guests arrived at the last moment, and she had Ethan give up his seat and go eat with the staff instead. Thinking back on it, Now she begins to see it differently. Ethan had always been the kind of person who accepted everything quietly obedient to a fault. He hadn't shown a trace of resentment that day, just swallowed his hurt and walked away. And so Vivian had never thought twice about it now. Something finally clicks. All those years living under the same roof had built something in her, some small measure of feeling for him, but the prejudice in her bones ran too deep. She had always, at her core, treated him as an outsider. But even if Ethan had been eating with the staff every day back in high school, crowded around the same table, how could that have led to malnourishment? Full of confusion, she calls Butler Hayes, not out of concern, not out of guilt. She simply wants to know whether the staff had done their jobs back then. The call connects quickly. She lays out her question in a flat, cold tone on the other end. Butler Hayes is quiet for a moment, then answers carefully. It may be that during that period Ethan often missed meals. You had given strict instructions not to coddle him, said it would give him bad habits and embarrass the Moore name, so his schedule was kept in line with the rest of the staff. But staff meals run on a fixed window, miss it, and the kitchen closes. So he simply went without. He went hungry. Vivian listens, growing more bewildered by the second. What does one thing have to do with the other? Was Ethan throwing a tantrum, refusing to show up on purpose, and ending up with nothing to eat as a result? Vivian lets out a cold scoff. If he was doing that to himself, then he had it coming. Acting like a young master without the birthright to back it up. Butler Hayes listens, then says, with a tired smile, "Do you remember the time I asked you to arrange a driver for Ethan?" Vivian pauses, thinking, and a vague memory surfaces. It was Ethan who had brought it up himself. Vivian had heard it as an unreasonable demand and refused without a second thought. She had already decided to raise him. Lean, a personal driver, was out of the question. She had even suspected he was getting above himself, wanting to show off by riding around in an estate car. Yes, I remember something like that. But what does that have to do with food? Was he sulking over it, refusing to eat as some kind of protest? Butler Hayes shakes his head quickly. Ethan didn't complain. Not once. The very next day he used his allowance to buy a bicycle and rode that beat-up bike to school and back every single day. Vivian hears this and nods inwardly. Young people should get more exercise. But what Butler Hayes says next shatters every comfortable assumption she has been holding onto Butler. Hayes sighs and continues. The high school was very far from the estate. Even by bicycle it took over an hour. To get there on time every morning, Ethan had to be up by 5:30 in the morning, but the staff breakfast window at the estate, without exception, ran from 7 to 9, which means every morning when he left the house, the kitchen hadn't even been lit yet, and in the evenings, he was often too buried in schoolwork to make it back in time. Butler Hayes lets out a long, heavy sigh. Back then, he had watched all of this and felt helpless. He had brought up Ethan's eating situation more than once, but Vivian had cut him off every time, insisting everyone be treated the same. No exceptions, no special treatment. The words land like a bolt through Vivian. She finally sees just how badly she had gotten it wrong. She has always moved through the world in chauffeured cars. She had long forgotten what it costs to live without, that she had always assumed that a kid from an ordinary background had no business asking for a private driver, and naturally took Ethan's request as entitlement. She had completely overlooked how remote the estate was, and how far it sat from his school. His request had been completely reasonable, and even if the driver was off the table, even the smallest adjustment, having a cook start breakfast a little earlier, the way any normal family would for a child matching his schedule, would have been enough. But she had shut down both options herself. Vivian has no choice but to admit it. Now Ethan starved his way into illness because of her after she hangs up assistant Sean, who had been so vocal just moments ago, now stands there feeling the sting of it too. But Ethan is still an adopted child, not Vivian's real brother. Vivian knows she was wrong, but a lifetime of looking down at the world makes it impossible to bow her head to anyone. She will just send someone to drop off his things. Meanwhile, back at Moore Estate, a young woman sits alone at the edge of her bed. Her skin is flawless, delicate as fine porcelain, the kind of beauty that draws every eye in every room. Her name is Melody Moore, the reigning queen of pop. Her latest release, just out recently, shot straight to the top of every major streaming platform. But last night, Melody could not sleep. She is terrified of sliding back into that darkness of becoming someone who lies awake, hollowed out, night after night. So she tries desperately to remember how she had gotten through it the last time. Out of habit, she reaches for her phone, ready to call Ethan over to help her unwind. Her fingers pause, and the realization hits her. Ethan is no longer here. She and her sisters drove him out themselves, but the pang passes quickly. He was never truly one of them. Savior is coming home soon. Keeping a stand-in around would have been absurd. She has Butler Hayes find a massage therapist right away. Someone is sent, but no matter what, she cannot find that same calm she used to feel when I drag myself home. Exhausted, the living room is completely dark. There are steaming dishes on the table, but not a single person in sight. Then the bright hiss of sparklers fills the room. Light bursts through the dark. Happy birthday, big brother. Helen steps out from the back room, smiling, and carefully sets a birthday cake on the table. Sunny dashes to the side of the room, yanks away a cloth, and reveals a small electronic keyboard underneath. She wants to play me a song she just learned. I am delighted, but also puzzled. When I arrived yesterday, there was definitely no keyboard in this room. This is not something a family like ours could easily afford, but I spot the clue quickly. A sticker on the keyboard reads, Class 2, Xiao Mei Wang. A sting rushes up to my nose for my birthday. Sunny had gone out and borrowed someone's keyboard. In all those long years at Moore Estate, nobody had ever once cared about my birthday. Watching Sunny play with that look of total focus on her face, I stand beside her, eyes burning, and clap, humming softly along with the melody. When the song ends, I ruffle her hair and ask, "Do you really love playing? Once I save up enough, I'll get you one of your own." Sunny's face lights up instantly. She cannot hide it. "Thank you," is right there on the tip of her tongue, but she swallows it back down, trying to be mature. She blinks up at me with those big bright eyes and says the opposite of what she means. Actually, I don't even like it that much anymore. I see right through her, but I just smile and let her have it, already making a quiet promise to myself to give her something she won't see coming. So I go along with it and shift gears. "Thank you, Sunny. I really love it. Let me play one for you." Sunny's eyes go wide. "Wait, you play?" I have barely settled onto the bench and raise my hands when there is a soft knock at the door. I pull the door open and freeze. A girl stands there in a white button-up and a knee-length skirt, her dark ponytail framing a long, graceful neck, a light breeze lifting the loose strands around her face when she sees me open the door. Claire Yates breaks into a warm smile. "Looks like I've got the right place." She holds out an elegantly wrapped gift box with both hands. "Happy birthday, Ethan." When I just stand there, blank, she tilts her head and asks playfully, "Aren't you going to invite your best friend in?" She was my classmate back in high school. She had found out what happened through the class group chat and made a point of coming today. Sunny stares at this absolute goddess of a girl, then looks back at me, standing there like a statue. A knowing look spreads across her little face, and she grins like the sneakiest kid alive. She sidles up beside me, tugs at my sleeve, and whispers under her breath, "Is that pretty lady your girlfriend?" The apartment is barely big enough to keep a secret. There is no way Claire didn't hear that. A flash of embarrassment crosses her eyes, and she spins around to stare out the window, pretending to admire the view, doing her best to look completely unbothered. But her ears have gone completely red. Then I open my mouth, and the words land like cold water. No. The truth is, I am not unmoved. A girl like her, adored by everyone around her, beautiful in every way, inside and out. But I am a dying man. What right do I have to talk about love? Sunny has no idea what is going on between the adults, and just drags me straight over to the keyboard. I let her, and settle onto the bench. My fingers move across the keys, and the melody pours out like water. Claire is caught by it instantly. The sting from a moment ago completely forgotten. When the last note fades, the sound lingers in the air. Sunny claps until her little palms turn red. "That was amazing. That's Melody's new song, isn't it? All the girls in my class have been singing it non-stop." I just smile and say nothing, letting it go because only I know the truth. This song belongs to a past life, the final piece from a world that no longer exists. At the same time, across the city at Moore Estate, Melody sits at her grand piano. Deep into the night, soft light falls over her, and as the melody rises, she looks every bit the queen she has become. As she sinks deeper into the music, the sound grows richer and more alive. When the piece comes to a close, Butler Hayes breaks into quiet applause. Every time she finishes a performance like this, he cannot help but think of the past. When Melody was just 7 years old, she had seen a master pianist on a screen, fingers blazing across the keys, drawing out music that felt like raw power, and fell completely in love with the instrument. Today, her fans call her a master, but when she first started, her teacher saw no talent in her at all. Her feel for music theory was weak, far less developed than children her age, and her fingers were too short to become a true master of the piano. Long, elegant hands were considered essential. Her teacher had said so in the very first lesson back then. She sat at the bottom of her class until Ethan came along and changed everything. Even now, she cannot forget the boy she had watched play for the first time. Same limitations as her, his fingers no longer than hers, and yet he played perfectly from that day forward. Melody quietly made Ethan her competition. If a kid like him could do it, then she could do it better. She picked herself back up and threw herself into practice slowly. She pulled ahead of her peers and earned the recognition of that same teacher who had written her off. She was even invited to perform at a renowned opera house, playing a four-hands piano duet alongside her teacher. She still remembers how lucky she felt her teacher was one of the finest artists in the country, a legend who had swept every major competition at the national level. Melody was not the teacher's star student. Several older students outranked her with technique that surpassed hers by a full measure. She had wanted that spot desperately, but knew there was only one place, and the odds were not in her favor. And yet, at the very last moment, her teacher announced the spot would be decided by a draw chosen at random from among the students. As if fortune itself had reached down, Melody's name was the one pulled. She still remembers every detail standing in that great concert hall. Her notoriously short-tempered teacher was patient from the first note to the last. During the four-hands duet, the teacher followed her lead at every turn, staying in the background, making her the center of it all, giving her every spotlight moment on that stage. Even though it was her very first performance before an audience with hundreds of eyes on her, she found her footing quickly. Something in her shifted, and she stood taller. The gaze of the crowd no longer frightened her. When the final note rang out, her teacher stepped back and gave her center stage. She bowed with quiet grace, neither timid nor proud. The press captured the moment, and the the reviews that followed were glowing. Every outlet said the stage looked like it had been built for her. After that night, Melody never doubted herself again. Ethan, what do you think? The name leaves her mouth before she even realizes it. Then it hits her. After all these years together, she has grown so used to Ethan being there whenever she practiced alone, always nearby, always present, and whenever she grew tired of playing, she would watch him take over and play, and somehow, that always settled something inside her. The thought leaves a quiet ache. She regrets the vote, the yes she had cast when they decided to send Ethan away. But then again, all of it was for Xavier, and Ethan was never truly sending him away seemed reasonable enough. But then a solution comes to her. She has heard that Ethan's living situation is not good, that things are quite lean. She could pay him to come back as a practice partner. The idea pleases her more than she lets on, but she will wait a few days before reaching out. They only just threw him out. Calling him back right away would be awkward even for someone like her. As she rises to head back to her room, she notices the camera set up nearby. She had requested it herself, partly to keep a daily record, and partly to review her technique afterward, and find where she could improve. She had also, on more than one occasion, used the footage to quietly study Ethan's playing, so the thought comes to her immediately. There may be a recent recording of Ethan in there. It has been too long since she watched him play. She has. Butler Hayes, draw back the projection screen and plays the most recent footage of Ethan, performing the moment that familiar melody fills the room. Melody goes completely rigid, disbelief written all over her face. She checks the timestamp on the recording, again and again. Then the realization strikes her like lightning. The piece Ethan is playing in this recording is the very song she released 2 weeks ago, but the date on this footage is a full week earlier than the day she first wrote it back at home. I have just finished playing, and Helen sets the final dish on the table. But as we sit down to eat together, Claire senses something is off. There is a distance between us that wasn't there before. She keeps telling herself that I have been through too much lately, and I'm still adjusting. Maybe in a day or two, things will go back to how they used to be. The moment dinner ends, I don't waste a second, and use the dishes as an excuse to disappear into the kitchen. Claire feels a tightness in her chest. I'll head out now, she tells Helen. The more she thinks about it, the worse it stings. She had put real thought into that gift, and Ethan had treated her with nothing but cold distance, without even a single thank you. But as she reaches for the front door, she still holds on to the hope that I will call after her if I just say something, anything. She would let the whole evening go. After everything they have been through together, she is certain I will. But reality slaps her hard. She pulls the door shut, hollow with disappointment, and I am still in the kitchen, without having moved an inch. Total jerk, Claire mutters, her voice cracking with something close to tears. She makes herself a silent vow. No more grabbing breakfast for Ethan on the way, at least not for a week. Absolutely not. I think that lady left angry, Sunny says quietly. I know. What I did was too much. Just then the doorbell rings. I dry my hands and hurry to the door, telling myself I will at least apologize. But it is not Claire standing there. Why are you just standing there blocking the door? Let us in. We need to talk. Vivian speaks next, her voice flat and cold. Why have you blocked me and Celeste? She has been trying to reach you. It's urgent. Hearing her call herself that I almost want to laugh. Sorry, I'm not sure who you are. Could you remind me? Something cold flashes in Vivian's eyes, still sulking about being asked to leave. There's really no need for this. You were never a Moore to begin with. Everything is out in the open now. You know the truth. Are you really going to keep pretending otherwise, acting like none of this happened? Clinging to something that was never yours? Vivian takes on that same lecturing tone she always uses once. This would have hurt me, but now I feel nothing. I am about to close the door in their faces when Helen hears the noise and comes to invite them in. She has no idea what lies between us. Vivian clicks into the living room in her heels and looks around with open disdain to someone who has lived the way she has. Calling this a living room is generous. It is smaller than the storage room at Moore Estate. I'll get straight to it. All your personal belongings from your room are here. Celeste has some questions about the piano and would like your guidance. Come to the estate every weekend to practice with her, 2 days a week. In return, I'll cover your full tuition for the rest of university. On top of that, I'll pay you a monthly salary. Name your number. 30,000? 50? Either works. This generosity has nothing to do with any lingering bond between them. Vivian sees the tuition as an investment, pure and simple. As for the salary, consider it a consolation for the years of malnourishment after listening to all of that arrogance. A brief hesitation crosses my face, not because of the tuition or the money, but because a face suddenly appears in my mind. Melody. She was always so fiercely driven, so unwilling to lose. Behind the brilliance she shows the world, the grace she carries in front of every camera. I know her better than anyone at her core. She is deeply, quietly insecure. Since I left, she won't be able to write like that anymore. She will likely fall back into the same darkness she crawled out of, the creative block, the dry well, the self-doubt eating away at every note she tries to play until she gives up, just like she almost did as a child. But I crush that flicker of pity before it can take hold. The decision to throw me out like trash was a vote every one of those sisters cast. They never once treated me as family. Why would I debase myself worrying about them now, when I don't cave the way I always used to. A cold smile surfaces inside Vivienne. She is convinced she has figured me out, certain that my resistance is just a play for more money. But right as she is congratulating herself, I open my mouth, and every word lands like a blade. Go back to that rotten place and play piano? I'd rather not. I don't want to get my hands dirty. I will never set foot in that place again. And we have absolutely nothing to do with each other. So please, stop lingering in my home. The words have barely left my mouth when the entire room goes dead. Silent assistant Sean stares at me like I have lost my mind. Have you completely lost it? If you throw away what Ms. Moore is offering you, you will regret it for the rest of your life. In Sean's mind, all I have to do is show a little sense, swallow my pride, and apologize, and even in a lesser role, at Moore Estate, I could still ride that wave all the way to the top. Helen and Sonny would never have to struggle again. Vivienne forces down her rage and jabs a finger toward me. Ethan, I'm giving you one last chance out of the goodness of my heart. Get down and apologize. Right now. Then show up every weekend to practice with Melody. The offer still stands. My answer is one word, clean and final. Get out. Vivienne slams the door so hard the walls shake in the car. She vows to cut all ties completely and pour everything into Xavier's welcome home banquet. Just then a spending notification lights up her phone. $530,000, all charged by Xavier. No description, no explanation. To Vivienne, it is a drop in the ocean. Xavier spent 20 years out there with nothing. Consider it the smallest start of what she owes him as a sister. Meanwhile, Melody receives news that stops her cold. It comes up during a casual call with her mentor. Ethan's piano talent far surpasses hers. The spot at the Opera House was never decided by a draw. Ethan had chosen to step aside and hand the place to her in an instant. She remembers a question Ethan once asked her, "We'll always be a family, right?" The next evening falls and I walk onto the university campus. All of yesterday, one question had been turning over in my mind. Whatever time I have left, what would make it mean something? But in this world, everything comes down to money. I need to build real wealth, and I need to do it fast. Given a second chance at life, I can see opportunities everywhere, snatching up prime real estate in the city center at rock bottom prices, or going all in on undervalued stocks with massive upside. But the payoff horizon on all of it is too far out, so I lock onto a faster path and sign up for tonight's freshman welcome gala. On the way, I run into Claire and we walk to the broadcast hall together inside. The hall is blazing with light, every spotlight trained on the main stage. As one of the country's most prestigious universities, this gala is on another level. Entirely, the school has brought in major media outlets to cover it live, and an official live stream is already running on the top platforms. The show has not even started yet, and the viewer count is already past 1,000. The moment we arrive, a sharp-eyed advisor spots us immediately and hauls us both straight into the backstage waiting room. Claire looks at me, completely baffled. I have always kept the lowest profile imaginable, so signing up to perform on stage is the last thing she expected from me. During the wait, the advisor leans in. Tonight matters a lot. The school has you opening the show. Ethan, are you absolutely sure you can deliver? I hear that and give a calm, steady nod. Leave it to me. I think I can hold my own at the piano. Before long, the gala begins. The host sees me take my seat at the piano and cannot hide the shock on his face. Word spreads quickly that I'm performing an original piece. The crowd starts murmuring, "Who even is this guy? An original composition? Just like that? Does he actually have the chops to pull this off? You really don't know? Where have you been?" That's Ethan Moore, the brother of Riverdale's wealthiest tycoon, though from what I heard, the real son came back a few days ago. The Moore family already put out a statement cutting all ties. Then comes a clean, sharp click, and every light on stage goes out at once. The hall drops into a silence so complete you could hear a pin drop. A single blinding spotlight ignites from above and locks onto me. I follow the light to the piano at the center of the stage and settle onto the bench with calm, unhurried grace. I lift the lid, adjust the microphone, and in the held breath of thousands, the music pours out like a mountain stream, finding open water, a melody no one in that room has ever heard before. Students and faculty look at each other in stunned silence. They had come ready to be entertained by a failure, expecting something rough, half-finished, embarrassing. Nobody expected this to be real. Soft notes drift upward and slowly fill the entire hall as the music builds. Layer by layer, the audience sees sunlight pouring through stained glass, falling softly over a bride in white. Two figures gaze at each other, eyes full of something that needs no words. And just as they are about to speak their vows, the music shifts, suddenly shadowed with grief. That beautiful vision of love and ceremony shatters like a reflection in broken water. As if all that beauty had only ever been a dream, a popular online creator in the audience shouts out, "What is this piece called? Someone tell me right now." A dream wedding comes to its end. I bow and walk off the stage. The gala continues on schedule, but in the unseen world of the internet, that solo has already ignited a storm. The high-definition footage of my performance spreads across every platform. A dream wedding shoots straight to the top of trending. Oh my, he is unreal. Those fingers aren't hitting piano keys. Every single note lands right in my heart. Why can't I find this anywhere? Don't tell me this is a one-time exclusive. An original, and it drops like this? As the discussion explodes across the internet, the country's biggest streaming platform can no longer sit still. They dispatched Director Nash to our campus that same night with orders to secure exclusive rights at any cost. Meanwhile, Xavier's welcome home banquet is in full swing. Vivienne stands with her glass, scanning the room, Puzzled Melody is nowhere to be found. She was supposed to perform tonight. To thank the guests back at the venue, director Nash corners me backstage. Mr. Moore, what a pleasure. We are very eager to acquire the exclusive streaming rights to your piece. Would you be open to a partnership? He launches into a stream of tempting revenue-sharing proposals, but nothing could have prepared him for how quickly I agree. I want to sell the full copyright outright for him. This is the deal of a lifetime. Just as we are about to settle on a final number, the door to the waiting room is shoved open. Ethan, don't sell. Think bigger. Don't let them lowball you. It is Melody, who had watched the live stream and come straight here, not stopping for a single second. I know you need money right now after everything, but selling the full copyright would be penny-wise and pound-foolish. Hold on to it, and it will only grow in value. I don't even glance in her direction. I don't answer right away. I just send one cold question back her way. When they voted to throw me out of Moore Estate, you voted yes. Am I wrong? Melody visibly flinches, her eyes go red at the edges, and she nods, slowly, with guilt written all over her face. I watch the performance and feel absolutely nothing. That cold, loveless place, I left it behind. Long before they pushed me out, Melody has a whole flood of words she wants to pour out. Ethan, do you have any idea how much I've been suffering? Without you there to practice with me, I can't sleep. Can we play together again? Like we used to? I miss sitting side by side at the piano. We were so close back then. She barely gets through it before I cut her off. None of that has anything to do with me. Go back to your mansion and play there. Stop coming here and playing the fool in front of me. Melody stands there, struck speechless. She has never, in her most far-fetched dreams, imagined I would ever look at her with this kind of contempt. All it used to take was a casual word from her, and I would show up for her without fail for over a decade. Through all those years, I never once arrived late. Even when I was sick with a fever, she knows better than anyone that being there for her had once been everything to me. So what is this look in my eyes now? The gap between then and now makes her eyes burn even more. Ethan, what happened to you? You never used to speak to me like this. I genuinely love hearing you play. Can't you find a little time for me? Those words turn my stomach. I let out a short, cold laugh. Is something wrong with me? Or has everyone here just lost their memory? Who was it that called me garbage? Said I was worthless? That having me around was nothing but an eyesore? And then joined hands to throw me out like trash? Kicked me into the gutter without a second thought. And now that things are going well for me, suddenly you remember what I meant to you? How shameless can you get? I fire the next shot without blinking. First of all, if something is wrong with your head, go see a doctor. Stop trying to get close to me. We are not close. I pull out my phone right in front of her and dial security. Security? This is the backstage waiting room. There is an unauthorized individual in here harassing me. Please send someone to escort her out. I hang up and look down at her. Second, what I do with my life is none of your business. My time is precious, and I refuse to waste what little I have left arguing with someone as fake as you, Melody Moore. In that moment, a wave of grief and humiliation crashes over Melody. She never expected things to spiral this far out of control in the past. She had thrown plenty of tantrums and caused plenty of trouble, even trampling over my dignity more than once without a second thought. And every time, all it took was a half-hearted apology from her for me to forgive her without hesitation. By the next day, we would be fine again. So she had always assumed that as long as she was willing to back down, this time would go exactly like all the others, that if she just lowered herself enough to admit fault, I would be grateful and go right back to being by her side. So no matter how hard she tries, she cannot make sense of it. She had swallowed her pride and come here in person, and I had shut the door in her face without flinching. She is still forcing down the shock and humiliation, and bracing herself to pull rank and guilt trip me again, when the security guard storms into the waiting room. Excuse me, miss, are you a student here? If not, I need you to leave immediately. A flicker of panic crosses Melody's face. For the first time, she steps forward, as if she is about to argue her way through it, but I've already put on my noise-canceling headphones, completely ignored. She feels a surge of wounded pride, and a sharp, needling ache spreads through her chest. She cannot understand how it has come to this, and even less how the boy who once looked at her like she was everything could have changed so completely for the first time. Someone who has always stood above everyone else feels afraid. She is terrified that the shadow that always followed her has finally, in this moment, broken free from her for good. As the security guard grows more firm, Melody has no choice but to bow her head in shame and be escorted out of the room like a stray dog with nowhere to go. When she drifts back to Moore Estate, hollow and lost, Xavier's welcome home banquet is winding down. Xavier is on stage, performing under the spotlight with everything he has, when he suddenly spots his second sister standing in the crowd. Completely blank-faced, he assumes his singing has moved her. He has no idea that Melody is on the verge of tears, precisely because his singing is so painful to listen to. The contrast is sharp. Ethan had commanded the entire room with nothing but his piano, and yet her real brother on that stage sounds like a cat being stepped on. The difference is so painful it makes her want to cry. She makes it through the night in agony and wakes up well past mid-morning. The first thing she does is grab her phone and send a cautious message into the chat window, hoping to find out whether she has been unblocked. But the moment the screen lights up, a news notification pops up. The streaming platform has officially announced a deal with piano prodigy Ethan Moore, acquiring the full copyright of A Dream Wedding for $2 million. After reading the announcement, she cannot hold back. What an absolute fool. He has zero zero business sense. She had pleaded with him not to rush into selling. With her years of experience in the industry, she can say conservatively that within 10 years the royalties alone would have been worth at least $5 million, not counting the staggering returns 20 or 30 years down the line. The news makes her chest ache and her mind race. After witnessing that performance that had shaken the entire internet, she knows Ethan's technique has reached a level beyond compare, carrying the kind of depth that takes masters decades to earn. That realization pulls her into a doubt she cannot shake. Had Ethan been holding back all along every time he sat beside her as a practice partner? How else could he have burst into brilliance the moment he left? Had he been quietly making way for her pride this whole time? With $2 million in hand, I head straight to the hospital and come out with a bag full of imported medication, then squat by the side of the road and tear into a street crepe like I haven't eaten in days. Nash Carter happens to walk past and sees the whole thing. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would never have believed it. The piano prodigy who just pulled in $2 million from a single piece is crouching on a curb eating street food like a construction worker on lunch break, true to every clause in the buyout contract. I go into the studio and lay down the full recording of A Dream Wedding. Nash Carter brings over a premium cup of tea with both hands. Mr. Moore, the full payment has been transferred. Every last cent. The reason he is rolling out the red carpet for someone my age is simple. I have just turned 20, and at 20, I have already produced something that belongs in the canon. Who is to say this isn't just the beginning? What if there's a second piece? A third, just waiting to be pulled out? Better to pour resources in now and lock down goodwill so when the next masterpiece comes, they are first in line. Nash Carter stands up beaming and extends his hand. Mr. Moore, here's to a successful first collaboration. If you ever have another piece of this caliber, I hope today has shown you how serious we are. We would love nothing more than to work with you again. But all that warmth hits a wall. He has delivered a full speech of polished flattery, and I sit there like a post, giving him absolutely nothing. Not even the courtesy of standing up to shake his hand. The arrogance quietly infuriates him, but after years in this industry, he has met all kinds of eccentric geniuses who think the world owes them a bow are nothing new. Just as he is turning to leave, I finally lift my eyes and speak. Sorry about that. My mind wandered. Since you're so eager for a next time, why waste time waiting for it? No time like the present. Let's do it today. What I say next, delivered without a trace of drama, drops his jaw so hard he can barely close his mouth. I have another complete original. Right here. It holds its own against A Dream Wedding. Every measure of it. The words, land, and the studio goes completely silent. Not just Nash Carter, even the sound engineer beside him stares with wide eyes in their minds. A Dream Wedding is the kind of piece that comes once in a generation, destined to be remembered long after its composer is gone. A true classic. To write something like that at 20 is already the mark of an extraordinary talent. And yet, right here in front of them, I am claiming to have another one, sitting in my pocket at the same level. How could that not send a chill down their spines? The look on Nash Carter's face right now is something to behold. This is the real thing. He has struck gold. If Ethan can actually produce a second piece that matches the first, then the sheer scale of this person's musical gift is something almost too frightening to comprehend. And yet, how has someone this extraordinary spent 20 years completely unknown in this industry? Nash Carter steadies himself and with the utmost respect, invites me to sit burning to hear what this mysterious second piece sounds like. When my hands open across the keys, a torrent of dense, rapid notes pours out like a dam breaking open, and the music tears into something almost hysterical in its intensity. The moment my fingers touch the keys, something in me shifts as if I'm using every note to rage against everything fate has handed me, pouring every last feeling out until there is nothing left. Nash Carter is trembling with excitement. He has found something priceless. A Dream Wedding, for all its breathtaking beauty, had one weakness: it was technically too accessible. This second piece goes in the complete opposite direction. The dizzying speed of the fingerwork looks almost like the hands are fighting each other at the same time in the grand, quiet halls of Moore Estate. Vivian has been knocking on Melody's bedroom door for a while. Melody, get up. Come down and eat. But when the door slowly swings open, Melody is a mess. She drifts out like a ghost. Hair tangled, eyes vacant. The sight of her gives Vivian a jolt. Melody, what happened to you? Are you sick? But she quickly figures out the real cause. Is this about Ethan? Did you sneak out to see him last night? Did he say something awful to you? Come on, I'll go deal with him right now. Vivian thinks she can understand Ethan giving her a hard time. After all, her own negligence had caused Ethan real pain. But what had Melody ever done to deserve this? Melody bursts into tears. Do you really think those songs were mine? Do you honestly believe I could write any of them? Vivian blinks and quickly tries to steady her. Of course they're yours. Who else could have written them? But those words only make it worse. Melody cries harder. It was Ethan. Every single one of them. He wrote them all for me. Have you lost your mind? How could that ungrateful wretch possibly write songs? Vivian has no idea what Melody is going on about. Ethan lived under this roof for over a decade, and she never once heard a word about any musical gift. And even if that were somehow true, even if he did know something about music, what would that have to do with your songs? Ever since Ethan blocked me, Mr. Vale has gone completely silent too. So I am certain Mr. Vale is Ethan. Vivian goes still. Then it hits her who Mr. Vale is. He had written multiple songs tailored specifically for Melody, each one of absurdly high quality, every single one a phenomenon across the major streaming platforms. Vivian had once tried to track him down to properly thank him on Melody's behalf, but he had never once appeared in public, and for all these years, Mr. Vale had only ever contacted Melody through a single private online channel. If someone like that were Ethan, Vivian Would never believe it in 1,000 years. Impossible. It has to be a coincidence. There is no way he has that kind of talent. But before she can finish, Melody cuts her off. Ethan really does have this kind of talent. You may not have been following the entertainment news lately, but Ethan just released something extraordinary. Even my own mentor can't stop talking about it. The biggest streaming platform in the country paid a fortune for the rights. Vivian had not been paying attention to entertainment news, but after hearing all of this from Melody, the very first thought that surfaces in her mind is about Ethan. This ungrateful wretch, he was playing the long game all along. Over a decade at Moore Estate without playing a single note, and the moment he is out the door, he is out there showing off. Just then Vivian gets a call from her lawyer. Ms. Moore, I have results on that private investigation you requested. The old case. The rumor that Ethan harassed a female student. The evidence is conclusive. The girl fabricated the entire thing. Ethan was falsely accused from start to finish. We found a payment made to the girl's account. The name on the transfer is your brother, Xavier Moore. That revelation hits like a bomb, and for once, decisive Vivian is consumed by self-reproach. She thinks back to when the scandal first broke. She had pinned it on Ethan based on nothing but her own bias. And to keep it quiet and protect the hollow reputation of the Moore name, she had stripped Ethan of any right to defend himself while Moore Estate is still reeling. The internet erupts again. News of the streaming platform acquiring a second piano piece breaks without warning and immediately takes the top trending spot across every platform. Audiences watching from the sidelines can barely process it. No way. What got into this guy? He's dropping masterpieces like a machine. One a day? Is he even human? Just who exactly is Ethan Moore? Meanwhile, I am tucked away in the park behind the campus hill, leaning on the railing, watching the lake, a parent and child drift by in a rowboat. Maybe it is the loneliness of 2 lifetimes finally catching up to me, but I find myself envying that simple scene more than once. Knew it. The king of skipping class is hiding out here. Where were you today? I didn't see you in class. A familiar bright voice breaks through my thoughts. Claire is standing at the bottom of the steps, reaching her hand up toward me. Why are you just standing there like a statue? Hurry up and give me a hand. I lean down and reach out to pull her up, but the moment she puts her weight on my hand, I nearly topple forward into the lake. Ethan, are you okay? You feel so much weaker than before. I catch my breath and hear those words, and something deep inside me quietly shatters. If it weren't for this wretched illness, I could have been brave enough to face what Claire feels for me. I could have had so much time ahead of me to take Helen and Sunny out on the water on a lazy afternoon, but those offhand words from Claire jolt me out of the dream and back into the cold. A dying man has no right to these kinds of wishes. Ethan, you're incredible these days. I heard you sold a piece for $2 million. Everyone online is calling you a genius. I push the grief down and speak plainly without mercy. Claire, I don't know what we are to each other anymore. If we were something more, then let's end it. Claire's mind goes completely blank. She never imagined I would say something like this to her. Did I do something wrong? Did I make you angry? You didn't do anything wrong. I'm the one who changed. When I was sitting in that office signing contracts, do you know what kind of future they painted for me? They promised me that I would work with top musicians and major names in the industry, that I would step into a world I have never had access to before. I am not willing to give any of that up for you. Claire's slight frame begins to tremble. Her eyes go red. In an instant, those heartless words pierce her like needles when she forces herself to look up through the tears. I am already gone by the time I drag myself home in a daze. I collapse onto the old sofa like a pile of wet sand. Helen hears the noise and hurries over, worried. The draft is bad on that sofa, sweetheart. Don't fall asleep there. You'll catch a chill. Listen to me. Go get some proper rest in your bed. Seeing that I have already sunk into an exhausted sleep, Helen tries to pull the blanket out from under me to lay it over me. But the moment she does, her eyes fill with tears. She makes a heartbreaking discovery. Her son weighs almost nothing. My boy, what have they done to you out there? In that heartbreaking quiet, a sharp, urgent knock rattles the front door. Hello? Could someone open up? Is anyone home? The uninvited guest is none other than Vivienne. She has come to negotiate a quiet payoff to keep my mouth shut, but none of it comes from a place of conscience. It is purely to stop me from airing the Moore family's dirty laundry in public. After what Melody said stung her, she had gone through every trending post about me with a stone-cold expression and confirmed that I had gone viral off the back of 2 piano pieces. I am now the undisputed center of a full-blown internet storm. If I chose to bring up the past right now at the height of this attention, the damage to the Moore name would be severe to signal sincerity. She has come alone this time. Without her assistant, her makeup and outfit carefully chosen to project warmth and approachability. Helen wipes her tears and pulls open the security door. When she sees it is Vivian, again, her normally gentle face darkens immediately. What do you want now, you heartless woman? Seeing Helen's hostility, the false smile Vivian has put on freezes on her face, but she is too seasoned a businesswoman to let it show for long. Last time got off on the wrong foot because of a misunderstanding between me and Ethan. I'm here today to have a calm conversation with him. I went by his university just now, but he wasn't there. I figured he must be home by now. While Helen is still processing this, Vivian slips inside. Just a small token. Please don't read too much into it. She sets 2 boxes glasses of extraordinarily expensive tea from the estate down on the worn, paint-chipped coffee table with a firm thud, but Helen snatches both boxes right back up and shoves them toward the door. Take it back. Nobody here wants your charity. The move stops Vivian cold. She thinks to herself that this family must have lost their minds, every single one of them, acting like they have a fuse waiting to blow in Vivian's mind. Helen was supposed to be the meek and easily managed type. So why has this woman suddenly grown a spine? Please, calm down. I genuinely came to see your son. I owe him a proper apology. I know I handled things poorly before. The truth is, Vivian has not only come under pressure to apologize, she also needs something from me, so she swallows her pride and forces herself to keep her composure. On any other day, this woman who rules her world like a tyrant would have already caused a scene hearing that she has come to apologize. Helen softens slightly, but her guard does not drop. She still wants her gone. She remembers the last time this woman claimed to be here to make amends, said all the right things about wanting to settle things peacefully, and how it had ended in a screaming match. Helen is just about to show her the door when I push open my bedroom door. Mom, who are you arguing with? Vivian sees me and steps forward, quickly closing the distance before I can react. Can I come in? I just need a few minutes. I don't even look up. I step back and move to close the door, but I don't have the strength to fight her. She grabs the handle and holds it firm. Do you have any idea what's happened since you left? Melody is a wreck. She hasn't slept in days, especially after she saw you that night. She came home completely hollow, won't eat, won't drink. She locks herself in her room all day. I feel nothing. What does that have to do with me, already worn down by Helen's barbs? The composure Vivian has been holding together finally cracks. Perhaps somewhere in the back of her mind, she still expects me to be the obedient little brother who never pushed back. Her voice rises. Have you got no heart at all? Melody is falling apart, and you're standing there making cold remarks. I have come to you more than once, swallowing my pride every time. What is it going to take? Do you have any conscience at all? The words have barely left her mouth when a roaring fills my ears, and a tearing, blinding pain rips through me so severe, I cannot make a sound. Vivian is still playing the aggrieved older sister. I admit I've handled some things badly in the past. If you resent me for that, fine. But what gives you the right to treat Melody this way? Did you say something terrible to her that night? Did you put your hands on her? How else could she end up looking like that? I can let other things go, but you're going to explain this one to me today. She says all this with a face full of disappointment. She had seen me keeping those old things they had carelessly given me, and assumed it meant I still treasured the bond between us. It seems she had been fooling herself all along. By now I have steadied myself enough to speak. Is something wrong with all of you? Didn't you pop champagne the day you threw me out? How would I know why she suddenly fell apart? And besides, you already said it yourself. At that, the fire Vivian has been sitting on all this time finally breaks free. Enough, you ungrateful wretch. Her hand goes up, moving to slap me the way she had in the past without a second thought, but I catch her wrist. She staggers, caught completely off guard. Has she ended up like this? Have you even asked her why? Still reeling from being stopped in her tracks, Vivian goes still, because it is true she has never once asked Melody what is actually wrong. She had simply seen Melody suffering and decided immediately that it must be my fault. Get out of my home. The moment the words leave my mouth, the pain in my head strikes again, and I press my hands against my skull, unable to hold back. How dare you speak to me like— Vivian stops mid-sentence. Something about me is clearly wrong. Ethan, are you all right? The old report flashes in her mind. Malnourishment. Sit down. Rest for a minute. I'll book you an appointment with a specialist tomorrow. She tells herself this and feels a quiet sense of relief in her mind. As long as she has done this much, whatever happens to my health from here on out is no longer anything to do with her. And about what happened before, I was wrong. I had it investigated. That girl lied about you. She made the whole thing up, but it's all in the past now. Don't bring it up again out there. All this sulking and digging your heels in, it's just because of how things ended with the Moore family, isn't it? If you agree to what I'm asking, I will allow you to come back to Moore Estate. She had worked this all out before she arrived. Consider it a form of compensation. And once back, I would naturally be around to support Melody again. And from a purely business standpoint, Ethan is worth investing in when she weighs it all up. This is the decision she lands on. But there is one condition for your return. You need to apologize to me and to Melody. After all, if you come back, we are family. And some of the things you said, and the way you acted, that crossed a line. Vivian settles back into that familiar lecturing posture. She misses the version of me that did what he was told, so even while offering this concession, she still needs to put me in my place. I am so angry I can barely think straight. I genuinely do not understand where she gets this confidence. What are you talking about? I am already in pain, already at the end of my patience, and now I have to stand here listening to this, and I snap. From the moment you made that call, have I said a single word about wanting to come back? Who gave you the idea that I wanted any of this? You're the one who shows up here like clockwork, every few days for what exactly? Is there anything going on in that head of yours? Vivian explodes. Fine. I have said everything there is to say. I have done more than my part. That's on you. You will never set foot in Moore Estate again. Not even if you get on your knees. That makes me laugh out loud right there. Oh, thank you so much. The thought of never going back to Moore Estate, I might just cry. Actually, while we're at Could you get out of my home and stop showing up here? If you can manage that, then I'll consider us truly done. Vivian is shaking with rage, still smarting from being grabbed at the wrist, grinding her back teeth so hard they might crack. Riverdale's wealthiest tycoon had lowered herself to come here in person, had actually set aside her pride and apologized, and not only am I not grateful I had treated her like a punching bag, she is not deaf to my sarcasm, but she clings to the belief that I want to go back to Morris State. Say nothing else, at least the living conditions are 100 times better than this cramped little place. Just then her phone buzzes in her pocket. She nearly rejects the call, but when she sees the name on the screen, her expression shifts. Melody, what is it? On the other end, Melody's voice comes through urgent and tight. How did it go? Did you talk to Ethan? Is he willing to come home? Vivian's face goes blank, but it is her sister, so she keeps her voice level and walks her through what happened in her version of events. There is no shortage of embellishment and selective memory, casting herself as the wronged party and painting me as a cold-blooded ingrate. I nearly laugh out loud listening to it, but I cannot be bothered to correct any of it. In fact, I am almost glad she is doing it this way. The worse she makes me sound, the less likely either of them is to come back. After Vivian finishes her dramatic retelling, she fully expects that Melody will give up on me entirely and let go of whatever attachment she still has before the obsession does real damage to her health. But what happens next catches her completely off guard. Melody bursts into tears on the other end, and then begs to be put on speaker. Ethan, I know you've been through so much. Please don't fight with Vivian anymore. You know what she's like. Just listen to her. Come home with her. I'm begging you. Before Vivian can scold Melody for groveling to an outsider, I reach over and take the phone out of her hand. Keep your sister away from me. And I hang up across town. Claire makes her way home in a daze. She had gone looking for me outside campus because I skipped class and ended up missing her own evening study session too. She locks her door and sits in the dark, perched on the edge of her bed, her mind a tangle she cannot unravel. Memories she cannot hold back come flooding in. She thinks back to freshman orientation week. She remembers the brutal heat that day, so bad you could wring sweat from your cap. The instructor had turned around and split open a watermelon as a treat, and everyone thought he had finally gone soft. But when the slices were laid out on the ground, they realized he was up to his usual tricks. Sure enough, he made the boys and girls sit across from each other, with the watermelon between them, and launched into one of his reaction time games. The rule was that you could only go for your slice when he finished counting down and called out the word, and not a moment before, but he barely started counting before shouting the signal. The moment everyone sat down, the whole group erupted into chaos. Claire remembers it clearly. She had let her focus slip for just a second and fell a full row behind. By the time she reacted, I already had my hand on the slice across from her. She snapped back to attention, and just when she had accepted that her piece was gone, I slid it across to her. She froze until the crowd around them broke into knowing cheers and teasing, and she came back to herself, face burning, and quietly picked up the slice. As for me, the others teased that the gesture had earned me first pick. When it came to matters of the heart, the smile has barely formed on Claire's lips. When another memory surfaces, the incident in their final year of high school. She had been walking home alone after school when a middle-aged man appeared with a knife. He had no grudge against her, had never even met her, but he came at her like he had lost all reason, charging toward her with a blade. Raised people on the street screamed and scattered, huddling at a safe distance, doing nothing more than calling the police. I didn't hesitate for a second. I dropped my bike, grabbed a mop from outside a nearby shop, and knocked the knife out of his hand, then held him down with help from a few bystanders until the police arrived. She remembers sitting with me at the hospital while they dressed the wound and sobbing so hard she could barely breathe, choking out the words, "Do you have any idea how reckless that was? You could have been killed." I hadn't said anything, just kept talking to her softly until she calmed down. She still remembers what she had blurted out. "If something had happened to you, I wouldn't want to live either." I had talked her out of it, gently and firmly at the same time, and it was on that day that she made a quiet promise to herself that, if she ever found herself in that kind of danger again, she would give her own life for mine without a second thought. Memories like these go on, and right now she is desperately trying to push them away, but they follow her like shadows. Each one, a dull, quiet ache. Is it really because you have stepped into a new world, met new people? Is that why you changed? She has known me for 5 years, since high school. What she used to tell herself was just a vague, undefined fondness, something she could not quite name today. For the first time, she sees it clearly. She has been in love for longer than she knew, completely and entirely in love with everything about me. She loves the way I haggle over prices when we shop, loves the way I drink cola in big, careless gulps, loves the way I go quiet when I read it. Only took a moment to fall, but the love has been 5 years in the making. The thought sends her scrambling for her phone. "Ethan, you were joking, right? Those things you said, you didn't mean any of them, right? Have you forgotten everything?" With every message she sends, the certainty she is trying to hold on to crumbles a little more. How desperately she wants me to reply right now with something like, "I was messing with you. You caught me." But the screen stays silent. She calls me the first time. It rings out when she tries again. She realizes she has been blocked after Vivienne gets driven out by both me and Helen. Helen calls after her with a sharp warning. I don't care how powerful you are. You come after my son one more time, and I am calling the police. Vivienne storms out of the building, seething, and spots a sports car parked at the entrance. She has seen plenty of cars like that, but this one is different. It is the one she personally gifted Xavier at the banquet. The window rolls down slowly, and Xavier leans out, all concern. What happened to you? How did your clothes get dirty? Vivienne gets in without expression. Nothing, just drive. She's not about to tell anyone she got grabbed at the wrist, but on the way, Xavier carefully ventures, didn't go well, did it? Inside, he is delighted, and seizes the moment to play the innocent. Is this because of me? After he found out the truth about being adopted, Ethan must hate me for ruining his life. We have never even met. I never did anything to him, but he probably blames me for everything. That must be why he's so angry. Xavier is getting genuinely into the performance. His voice thickens slightly, almost as if he might cry. What if we go back? I'll come with you. We can apologize to Ethan together. If it brings him back, if it makes Melody happy, I don't care what it costs me. He can yell at me, hit me, whatever he needs. Vivienne listens to all of this and feels her blood pressure begin to climb again. She smacks the window. I told you to drive. Stop bringing up that ungrateful wretch. Xavier flinches at her reaction. He had wanted to add that he would die for Melody's happiness, but even he felt that would be pushing it too far. Just then a call comes through. Vivienne answers. What is it? Ms. Moore, we have confirmed. The person behind the false accusation against Ethan is your brother, Xavier Moore. Xavier hears every word. His foot slams the brake. Vivienne stares at him, stunned. Xavier, why would you do that? She had told herself it was a coincidence. The same name, but the guilt on his face tells her everything she already knows still. One thing does not add up when that incident happened. Over a year ago, Xavier had not even been brought back to the Moore family yet. Why are you accusing me? What would I even have to gain? I just told you, if you want Ethan to come back, I'm even willing to go apologize to him. Vivienne hesitates. The truth is, she does not want to dig into this. The real Moore heir has been found. The stand-in is gone, and the family can finally move forward. She does not want to tear everything apart again, over Ethan. Half an hour later, they return to Moore Estate. The estate's layout had been revised dozens of times by a top-tier designer, from the sweep of the courtyard down to the exact placement of every decorative stone, every detail, the result of careful, painstaking work. The pavilion in front of the main building faces the entrance directly. Melody, who has been waiting, sees two people step out of the car, and her face lights up before she can stop it. But as they come closer, and she sees clearly who it is, even though the one returning is her real brother, a flash of disappointment crosses Melody's face, because right now, in this moment, the one she was hoping to see was Ethan. Melody starts to say something, but Vivienne raises a hand to cut her off. Inside. We'll talk inside. The three of them go in together. Melody notices Mrs. Holland sitting in the living room. She already looks deeply uncomfortable, and when she sees Xavier, she begins to shake. Vivienne dismisses the other staff, then turns to Mrs. Holland, stone-faced. You signed a confidentiality agreement. What you did is a betrayal of this household. If I take you to court, everything you have ever earned will not be enough to cover it. Mrs. Holland trembles so hard she can barely stand, and before anyone even asks, she confesses everything. It was Xavier who gave the orders. He had told her to find a girl willing to falsely accuse Ethan of harassment, and the hush money had been transferred by Xavier himself. The words hit Melody like a bolt from above. She cannot make sense of why Xavier would do this. That was over a year ago. How could Xavier have had anything to do with it? But the facts are right in front of her. Melody stops trying to untangle the timeline and turns on Xavier with fury. Why would you do something so cruel? Do you have any idea what that did to Ethan? But before she can finish, Vivienne slams her palm down on the coffee table. Enough. Haven't we had enough chaos in this family? Melody, he is your real brother. He went through years of hardship out there. No one looked after him. No one cared for him. Can you not give him a little understanding? Why are you always defending someone who was never even part of this family? Those words leave Melody stunned into silence. She tries to gather herself and push back, but Butler Hayes quietly intercepts her nearby. Xavier lets out a private sigh of relief. He had braced himself for serious consequences and cannot believe Vivienne is letting it go like this. Vivienne raises her hand, but in the end does not bring it down. No one is to speak of this again. As far as she is concerned, she has already apologized to Ethan for this. The whole mess was settled long ago, and there is no point in tearing the family apart over someone who was never truly one of them. What matters is that the family lives in peace. As for why Xavier had done it, Vivienne has a rough idea. For years, she had been searching for her real brother, tracking down and checking countless adoptive families. About 2 years ago, she had reached out to Xavier's adoptive parents, asking about the boy they had taken in, but something had gone wrong along the way, and it took another year before she got a definitive answer. During that year, she had been in contact with them multiple times before finally confirming that the boy was Xavier. They went through the DNA verification process and brought him home, in all likelihood. During that stretch, Xavier's adoptive parents had told him what was happening. As for his motive, she puts it down to insecurity. Finding out there was someone sitting in his place acting on impulse and doing something foolish. She can understand it, watching Vivienne brush it all aside so easily. Melody suddenly understands a great deal. Vivienne's prejudice against Ethan goes all the way to the bone. down. Ethan had been punished mercilessly over this accusation. In Vivian's version of events, he had been cast as irredeemable. Now Melody finally understands why Ethan refuses to come back under any circumstances. It is all right there in front of them. Vivian will not even bother to clear Ethan's name, give him back what she took from him. How could he ever want to come back? Melody, go wash your hands. Dinner is ready. I'm not hungry. Melody says it flatly and walks away. On the way back to her room, something suddenly strikes her. Is the false accusation really the only thing Xavier did? The more she thinks about, the more uneasy she becomes. In Ethan's final year at Moore Estate, it seemed like trouble followed him constantly. Whatever patience Vivian still had for Ethan was completely exhausted during that year, and it was just days before Xavier came home that she made that cold and final decision. The next morning, staff from the streaming platform show up at the door. They want to film a live stream documentary following a musician's daily life. It is part of the $4 million contract. I am now at the top of the piano world, and combined with the show's existing audience, the moment the stream goes live, the viewer count is already closing in on 10,000. Is this really where Ethan Moore lives? Are they sure they have the right address? They must have the wrong place. This neighborhood looks like a scrapyard. This is where a star lives? Honestly, the earlier episodes of this show were pretty real. Let's not jump to conclusions yet. I push the front door open shortly after having been through a round of online harassment before I know exactly how vicious it can get, so I made sure the apartment is empty today. Just me, no family. The host takes one look at me, and something flickers in his expression. Is this really the piano prodigy who just pulled in $4 million? The young man in front of him is dressed like he got dressed in the dark. A plain crew neck sweatshirt, worn cropped trousers, and a pair of no-name running shoes. The whole outfit probably adds up to less than $30 in all his years hosting this show. Other musicians who dressed casually were still head to toe in high-end luxury brands. Some even brought their own stylists. Someone like me is a first. The comment section loses it. Ha! This is literally my wardrobe. I looked up the exact items. His whole outfit is maybe $6. Just made $4 million and this is what he wears? Is the penny pinching really necessary? The host runs through the standard professional questions asking about my creative process and inspiration. I have a prepared set of answers ready and deliver them smoothly. Nothing to pick apart. Then the segment shifts to everyday life. Ethan, where do you usually have breakfast? I nod, pick up my phone from the table, and lead the host out the door right then. Sharp-eyed viewers in the stream spot something. That phone of his is something else. The model is so old it belongs in a museum. The screen is completely shattered. Where did he even find that thing? The group makes its way out to the street. I had actually planned to splurge a little today, skip the bus and call a car, but when I pull out my phone there is no ride-hailing app installed, and I'm not about to use up my data downloading one, so I lead the crew toward the bus stop. Instead, we have walked straight into the worst of the morning rush. The transit connections in this part of the city are terrible, and every resident in the surrounding area has converged on this one stop. The production crew takes one look at the mass of people and goes completely blank. People squatting, sitting, standing, packed in so tightly it is almost impressive. The host is visibly losing hope, quietly doubting whether he will make it onto the bus at all. Then the crowd stirs as the bus rolls in slowly. Every person waiting hardens their expression and takes on the look of someone prepared to fight their way. On the comment section explodes, taking the film crew onto a rush hour bus. This man is absolutely one of a kind in the music world. Honestly, I'm becoming more of a fan by the second. Not a trace of celebrity ego on him. He literally could be my broke college roommate. Fortunately, the line I need is not quite as brutal as the others, and the crew manages to squeeze on behind me without catastrophe. The bus lurches forward, stops, lurches again, passengers packed in and jostling like sardines. After 5 stops of being rattled back and forth, the host has gone completely pale, looking close to sick. Fortunately, I get off at the next stop. It is nearly 10 in the morning at this hour. I usually skip breakfast entirely and fold breakfast and lunch into one. The host nods along and gestures for me to lead the way to food, but when he looks around, there is not a single proper restaurant in sight. Just where exactly is Ethan Moore taking them to eat? The answer comes quickly. I walk into a worn-down convenience store. The place is empty. At this hour, it runs around the clock, kept alive by the late-night crowd, and little else. The only reason it has not shut down. It has seen me through more difficult nights than I can count. Seafood noodle cup as always, just boil the water too. The owner, who had been dozing behind the counter, snaps awake when he sees me and greets me with immediate energy. Add a tea, egg, and a sausage for me. Real meat only, not the starch ones. The owner breaks into a wide grin. Well, splurging today, are we? Don't see you going all out like this very often. He gets to work with practiced efficiency, pulls a cup of instant noodles off the shelf, tears open the seasoning packet, and fills it with boiling water, and once the noodles soften, drops in the sausage and tea egg. I scan the code and pay, carry the cup outside, and squat down on the front step to eat. The scene leaves viewers in the live stream completely speechless. Is he seriously doing this for the camera? The act is a bit much, don't you think? What kind of millionaire eats instant noodles on a step for lunch? Did none of you catch the owner's reaction? The man was shocked. He ordered an egg and a sausage. That means he doesn't usually even spring for extras. Still feels staged to me. The contrast is just too absurd to be real. While I eat, the host takes the opportunity to pull up the most frequently asked questions from the audience. Ethan, mind if I ask a few questions from your fans? I swallow a mouthful of noodles and nod. Would you be willing to show your phone to the camera? I pause for a beat, not not quite sure what he is after, but I go along with it. 4 million reasons to cooperate when the camera moves in close on the phone. Everyone sees that what viewers had described was, if anything, an understatement. The screen is shattered in a web of cracks, and hitting the power button takes a full 3 seconds to register. Ethan, can you explain this? With your talent, surely you can afford an upgrade? I look down and let out a quiet, private laugh. Diagnosed with late-stage liver cancer at 20. With less than a year left, I stopped caring about things like phones a long time ago. Thrown out by the people who raised me like a stray dog, I had lived inside wealth and been treated as less than nothing. None of that is something I intend to share with the world. I do not want anyone's cheap sympathy. The host senses the shift in my mood and smoothly steers things in a different direction, moving us along to the next part of the shoot, though the on-camera interview steps around it. The internet does not. Two extraordinary piano pieces have emerged. Out of nowhere, my name has been dominating the conversation for days, with over 20 separate trending topics carrying my name as clips from the livestream get shared across every platform. The debate erupts across the entire internet. Who could have imagined that the overnight sensation lives like someone with nothing, crammed onto public buses, squatting on the curb eating instant noodles? Why? Why did the host just drop it halfway? That was terrible interviewing. Deduct his pay. There had been posts going around earlier claiming Ethan was the real brother of Riverdale's wealthiest tycoon. Now that looks like complete nonsense. I've seen footage of that estate. The level of luxury is beyond anything you can picture. Whatever the story is, none of this adds up. This isn't frugal. This is something else entirely. Several rival companies, jealous of the attention I have been getting, spot the trending posts and see an opportunity and immediately hire online trolls to start a smear campaign calling me a miser, money-obsessed someone who pulls in millions and lets his family rot in a falling-apart apartment. If they can drag my reputation down far enough, their own artists can ride the rebound. The comment sections turn toxic, almost instantly, personal attacks coming in wave after wave. But the tide turns quickly. A video goes up from an account called Summer Apple. The person in it is none other than Owen Quinn, my roommate who still owes me money. He opens by identifying himself as my university roommate and comes clean about the confrontation over the debt a few days ago. Then he offers a genuine apology and, to everyone's surprise, goes to bat for me. I would stake everything on Ethan's character. This is genuinely how he lives. To the people saying he's performing for the camera or spreading rumors that he's spending the money on something illegal, I have screenshots of every single comment. If Ethan decides to take legal action, I'll be his witness. I've already spoken to a lawyer. We're ready. Owen then sets the record straight about my background. Ethan was the adopted brother of Riverdale's wealthiest family, yes, but he was only ever an adopted child. He has since returned to his biological mother. His mother spent years searching for him. There was even a local news segment about her search. I have no doubt he is saving every cent for his family. I genuinely cannot understand the filth some of you are putting out there. The video ends there because Felix Quinn had paid heavily to boost it, and it shoots straight to the top of trending. Felix had been watching my name climb the charts all week with growing dread, terrified that once I had this kind of platform, I would remember what happened at that restaurant, and one post with the chat logs would be enough to end his brother's career. So he had pressured Owen into recording the video as a peace offering. Felix is fairly satisfied with how it turned out. The tone was sincere, and the timing was right, and for now, the knot in his chest loosens slightly. The video causes a wave. Viewers dig up old news reports and find the coverage of Helen's years-long search for her son. For the first time, people begin to understand the weight I have been carrying. The streaming platform puts out a statement at exactly the right moment, announcing that the full copyright payments for both of Ethan's pieces have been transferred in full to his mother's personal account. That move flips the entire narrative. The smear campaign by the rival companies backfires completely and instead drives a surge of loyalty toward me. I have not posted a single thing, and my account gains 500,000 followers overnight, watching the viewers pour into the live stream, the screen filling with messages of warmth and encouragement. I go still for a moment, and then something warm moves through a part of me that has been cold for a long time. Thank you all for your kindness. I've seen some of you talk about raising money for me. I appreciate it more than I can say, but I can't accept it. I am capable of providing for my family on my own. A few days later, Melody's insomnia has grown significantly worse. Her sleep and waking hours are completely reversed, and her mental state is deteriorating. She floods both my number and Mr. Vale's with messages, but every single one disappears into silence, and she finds herself helplessly pulled into the past. She thinks about how I used to call her by name so warmly when we were young, how I absorbed every one of her moods without limit. She thinks about her own behavior back then, the entitled tantrums, how whenever she hit a wrong note during practice, she would throw a fit, taking it out on me, shouting and snapping at me for no reason, or simply because I played better than her, which stung her sensitive, jealous pride, and she would scream at me to get out, tell me she hated me, and never wanted to see me again, and every time, I said nothing, just met her with a smile, and by the next day acted as if nothing had happened, calling her warmly and sitting back beside her at the piano. Then the memory shifts to the day I came to her and apologized on my own. The image cuts into Melody like a blade, and with it comes the devastating certainty that nothing can be undone. Ethan, how did you become so cold? You used to be so gentle. I know I was wrong. Why won't you leave me even the smallest way back? Melody's tears spill over. If she had known the truth back then, known that I had gone out in a blizzard to beg her teacher to give her that chance, she would never have agreed to drive me out. Not for anything she would have fought for me with everything she had, but Melody understands now, with a hollow kind of grief, that even yesterday, when Vivienne had the full truth in front of her, she still refused to clear Ethan's name, and Melody had been too weak to stand against her, and beyond that one four-hands duet performance, Ethan had done countless things for her. In the shadows, things she is only now, after losing him, beginning to see. The thought of it makes Melody shake, as she cries, tears falling without stopping. She wipes her face, roughly grabs her phone, and opens the chat with Mr. Vale. The profile icon is still gray. The longer the silence goes on, the more certain she becomes that Ethan and Mr. Vale are the same person. Her fingers tremble as she scrolls back through the old messages, reading every word of encouragement Mr. Vale had once written to her when her first original song had swept the new music charts across every streaming platform. She had rushed to tell Mr. Vale the news. He had congratulated her, and then delivered a firm warning: one hit is nowhere near enough. If you can't follow it up with a second song and a third, the audience will forget you before you know it. This industry is full of people who burned bright for a moment and then disappeared into the crowd. Melody has achieved everything she set out to achieve, and those words feel more true with every passing year. They also fill her with a terror she cannot shake, the fear that her talent will run dry. She had planned to lock herself away and write, but her mind is a fog. She cannot produce a single chord, and right in the middle of that frustration, she notices a new post has appeared on Mr. Vale's profile, an automatically generated location, share, no text, just a pin dropped at a hospital. Melody knows that hospital after Vivienne brought up Ethan's malnourishment. Melody had quietly pulled up his medical records, and every single stamp on them was from that same hospital. That confirmation locks everything into place, but the elation lasts only a second before a cold fear seizes her. Why is Ethan at the hospital again? What have they found this time? Melody rushes to the hospital, heart pounding with dread. She finds her way to Dr. Reeves, Ethan's attending physician. Hello, doctor. I'm Ethan Moore's sister. Could you tell me about his condition? Dr. Reeves adjusts his glasses. You say you're his sister. Then why have you never once come with him to a follow-up? He has spent half his life in medicine and has seen every kind of person walk through his door. He has watched more goodbyes than he can count. And over the years, he has come to understand one thing clearly. For patients with terminal illness, the suffering of the mind almost always outlasts the suffering of the body. So when a diagnosis leaves no room for hope out of care for the patient's state of mind, he makes a practice of informing the family first so they can judge, based on what the patient can bear, whether and how to deliver the truth. The reason Dr. Reeves remembers Ethan so clearly is precisely because every single time he came in, he came alone. Melody catches something unspoken in his tone, and her stomach drops. Has my brother been diagnosed with something terminal? I'm sorry. That is the patient's private information. If you were truly close to him, why not ask him yourself? Why come to me? Is there anything else I can help you with? If not, please close the door on your way out. There are many patients waiting. Melody has nothing to say to that because he is right. If she had ever shown up as a sister should, why was she not there when he faced that diagnosis? Why does she now not even have the right to ask? She watches the next patient push the door open, and Melody leaves the office in a daze, even though Dr. Reeves said nothing. The dread inside her only grows heavier. The corridor is lined with patients wearing the faces of people carrying bad news, and almost every one of them has a family member sitting beside them. Those clutching their reports with trembling hands are slowly calmed by the quiet voices of the people who love them. The image hits Melody like a fist and twists. If Ethan really did receive a terminal diagnosis, how alone must he have felt, walking out of here with that paper in his hand? No, stop scaring yourself. Ethan is going to be fine. Nothing is going to happen to him. He's only 20. He's so young. Melody repeats it to herself over and over, forcing her mind away from the worst, and stumbles out of the hospital in a fog. Climbing into her car, she pulls out her phone and plays a clip, passing it to her driver in the front seat. Can you help me figure out where this is? See if you can tell which part of Riverdale this is from. The irony of it is almost too much. When Ethan lived at Moore Estate, she had been completely indifferent to his existence. And yet, the moment he was thrown out, she became consumed with tracking his every move. She has watched every episode of his livestream segment, not missing a single frame, and clipped the moments where the background hinted at his address, hoping her driver can piece together the location from the streets and buildings visible in the footage. The driver is sharp and quickly identifies the neighborhood when the doorbell rings cheerfully. Sunny bounces toward the front door, but just as she stretches up on her toes to reach the handle, her mother's strict warning flashes through her mind, and she stops herself. She drags over a small stool and climbs up and peers cautiously through the peephole. Outside stands a beautiful woman in sunglasses, and something about her face looks oddly familiar. Sunny scratches her head, but cannot quite place her outside. Melody rings the bell again. Hello? Is anyone home? She presses it twice. No answer. Melody assumes Ethan is out, or that her driver got the wrong unit. She sighs, and is about to turn and leave when the security door opens just a crack, and a delicate little face appears in the gap. Big eyes eyes blinking up at her, Sunny's voice trembles with excitement. Are you Melody Moore, the singer? From TV? Melody turns and looks at the little girl. The resemblance around the eyes and brows is unmistakable. She blinks, then takes off her sunglasses and says gently, Hi there. Is this Ethan Moore's home? Sunny's face goes completely red the moment she hears that, like a ripe little apple. Yes, it is. Ethan is my brother and he's the best. And you're Melody Moore. Me and all my classmates are your biggest fans. We know every single one of your songs. You sing so beautifully. The moment Melody realizes this little fan is Ethan's sister, her expression softens completely like ice melting. Thank you for being such a sweet fan. Is your brother home? Could I come in for a moment? Sunny nods so fast her head is practically a blur, and grabs Melody's hand to pull her inside. She ushers her idol to the living room sofa, and the moment Melody sits down, this tiny, devoted fan kicks into full hostess mode. She runs to the fridge for juice, then digs through every cabinet to pull out the snacks she's been saving, the ones she usually cannot bring herself to open. As a singer who watches her diet, Melody almost never touches snacks, but she likes this little girl so much that she makes an exception and tears open a bag of chips and crunches through them together with Sunny. But during the light, cheerful conversation, Melody notices something, the faint trace of dried tears at the corners of Sunny's eyes. She has clearly been crying alone. Not long ago, Melody pulls out a tissue and asks softly, Did something happen? Are you upset about something? You can tell me anything. I'm a big star. I can definitely help sort it out. At those gentle words, Sunny's lip trembles and she bursts into tears. The sudden outburst catches Melody off guard and she quickly pulls the girl into her arms. Hey, no more crying. You are the sweetest little thing. Your brother is practically famous now. If anyone at school gives you trouble, you go straight to your brother. He and I will sort them out together. While she is still comforting her, Melody's eyes drift to the coffee table, where an old phone sits with its screen still lit from the model and the worn cartoon case. It looks like an old backup phone Helen left at home so she could stay in touch with Sunny. The screen is open on a parent group chat, and messages are still flooding in. Something tells Melody this chat has everything to do with why Sunny was crying. She picks it up without hesitation and sees a pinned announcement sitting at the very top. Good evening, parents. In the spirit of honoring our teachers, the parent committee has decided, with Teachers' Day approaching, to organize a dinner in appreciation of our devoted teacher, along with a selection of fine gifts to express the gratitude of all the families in our class. The total cost will be divided equally among all 43 families. Each family's share comes to $93. Please confirm and transfer your contribution at your earliest convenience. Curled against Melody's side, Sunny lets everything out. Am I really just dumb? She asks. My teacher calls me stupid in front of the whole class every single day. She threatens to have me expelled. Melody's brow snaps together at Sunny's age. She is barely through the early years of primary school. 9 years of compulsory education is the law. What authority does a primary school teacher have to threaten a child with expulsion over grades? Could it be that Helen had not paid into the group's pockets, and Sunny was being made to suffer for it? Melody strokes her hair gently. You are not dumb. I think you might be the smartest kid I've met. That teacher is just trying to scare you. A child as thoughtful and well-behaved as you? The principal would never let that happen. At those words, a small light comes back into Sunny's eyes, but it fades just as quickly under the weight of doubt. But the teacher is really mean. She's made me stand in front of the class several times this week. She tore up my workbook in front of everyone. Said I was hopeless. Last week she moved my seat to the very back corner. Said a bad student like me belongs next to the trash bin. Melody listens with her jaw tight and her blood rising that a teacher could sink this low. Her own difficult childhood has taught her firsthand how devastating the wrong environment can be to a child's sense of self. To tear down a child's confidence this deliberately and call yourself an educator. But what is the grudge? What could a child possibly have done to deserve this kind of targeting? Melody cannot make sense of it, who hates a sweet, obedient little girl. Gently, carefully, Melody draws the full story out of Sunny. At every class meeting, the teacher drops hints about her after school tutoring sessions, pushing students to come do their homework under her supervision. But the fees are so expensive. I know how hard mom works just to get by. I didn't want to add anything extra on her, so I never told her. Everything clicks into place for Melody. Between this and the group chat demanding money for gifts, the teacher's motive becomes crystal clear. Looking around the small but tidy apartment, Melody feels the weight of it. The years Helen has spent raising 2 children alone. Sunny clearly understood the family situation, and the poverty had stolen something from her childhood, turning her old before her time. And to make it worse, the teacher's private tutoring business is in open violation of the rules, a serious breach that no one is supposed to cross. She could not openly demand money from parents, so Helen had no idea any of this was happening, and that miserable excuse for an educator had taken it all out on innocent Sunny. Forget it. Don't be scared. I'm here. Do you know how incredible your brother is right now? He wrote 2 pieces that have taken over the entire music world. A major company paid a fortune for them. He's earning real money now. The next time a teacher treats you badly, you go straight home and tell him. You don't have to suffer in silence. Sunny has no idea what copyright money means, but the boldness of her idol's promise fills her with a warmth she hasn't felt in a while. Melody keeps scrolling through the chat and finds another entry. The homeroom teacher has assigned a bizarre homework task. Parents are supposed to film their children performing a talent. The chat is flooded with videos of kids singing and dancing in front of the camera, parents cheering them on in the background. But Sunny has not submitted anything. Melody does not need to think hard to figure out why Sunny had not wanted to bother Helen, knowing how exhausted she is after work. so she had quietly buried the assignment. How about this? I'll record a four-hands duet with you. Sunny's eyes geo-wide as saucers. You'd actually make a video with me? Melody laughs and nods firmly. Her gaze drifts to the upright piano standing in the corner, and for a moment, she goes still. The piano is polished, the keys clean and bright, completely out of place in this humble little apartment. Sunny scrambles up onto the bench. My brother bought me this for my birthday. Isn't it pretty? I wipe it down every day. Melody walks over and sits beside her. It's beautiful. Your brother really loves you. Sunny picks the song and props up the phone to record. Melody settles her hands and smiles. I'll play the chords lower down and follow your lead. You take the melody. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Sunny lifts her head with quiet confidence, and a bright, clear melody fills the room. Melody's vision begins to blur in Sunny. She sees herself, the version she was once so proud of, the same slender, delicate fingers, the same soft, pale arms, the same unself-conscious confidence in front of a lens, and the music stirs something buried deep. The memory of the conservatory's brutal selection process surfaces, and the image of what Ethan had gone through to fight for her spot out in a heavy snowstorm, kneeling on the frozen steps of the concert hall, shaking with cold, like someone with nothing left to lose. Are you okay? The piece has ended, but Melody's hands are still hovering over the keys. Frozen Sunny's voice pulls her back. Sorry, I got lost in my thoughts. You played beautifully. You have real talent. But right in the middle of that warmth, Melody's phone starts vibrating like it is trying to escape her pocket. She answers, barely gets out a word, and her manager's voice comes through in a full volume fury. Where on earth have you been? Don't tell me you forgot. Today's shoot. The entire crew is standing there waiting for you. The shouting jolts her. She glances at the date on her phone, and it hits her the past few days of sleepless nights and emotional chaos had stripped her of all sense of time. She fires off a string of apologies and promises she is on her way, then hangs up and starts pacing in a panic. She is completely stuck. She had already asked Sunny, but Sunny had no idea when Ethan would be back if she stayed. It could be midnight, but the production crew cannot wait another minute. Just as she is scrambling to say goodbye, her eye catches something in the bin beneath the coffee table. An empty medicine bottle. She picks it up and turns to Sunny. What is this? I was sweeping under my brother's bed earlier and found the empty bottle, so I threw it out. Melody turns the bottle over to look at the label, but the label has been peeled off completely and deliberately. Something cold settles in her chest. She takes a photo and calls a senior professor she knows in the medical field. He enlarges the image and studies it carefully. The label's been removed too cleanly for me to be certain. I can't give you a definitive answer, but based on the bottle shape and the color of the remaining packaging, this looks like a high-strength liver prescription. The words liver prescription land like a stone, and the dread that has been building inside her hardens into something final because Ethan's high school medical report had been explicit: severe hepatitis caused by malnutrition. Is there any way to tell exactly what it is? Try this. Put the opening close to your nose and smell what's left. Melody unscrews the cap and breathes in deeply. A sharp, overwhelming bitterness hits the back of her throat. It travels from the nose straight down into her chest. It's hard to describe. It's complicated, but just smelling it makes my throat feel bitter. Bring the bottle to my lab. I'll run the residue through the instruments, and we'll know exactly what it was. Meanwhile, in the editing suite at the streaming platform's Riverdale office, Ethan, what do you think of this cut? Does this version match what you had in mind? The editor pulls up a few highlights from the live stream and turns to me for feedback. I open my mouth to respond when a fierce, clawing itch surges up from deep in my throat, and I break into a coughing fit. I cannot hold back. It tears through me, like something inside is coming apart. The violence of it frightens everyone in the room. Water. I manage to get the word out and fumble through my pockets with shaking hands. A woman beside me passes me a cup of warm water, and I take it, trembling. I force a handful of suppressants down my throat. Nash Carter stands nearby, his brow deeply furrowed. He wonders if he is imagining things but looking at someone who is only 20. He senses something that does not belong. The heaviness of a life, running out. The color that had flooded into my face during the coughing is fading fast, and what is left tells him this body is in far worse shape than it should be. His eyes fix on the bottle. I am gripping in my fist. The markings have clearly been removed on purpose, but even a blind man could tell this is not a cold remedy. The questions piling up inside Nash Carter grow heavier by the second. Ethan had been a son of one of Riverdale's most powerful families. Without exaggeration, a family with that kind of wealth would have had a private medical team on retainer, regular full-body checkups, premium nutrition management. So how, at barely 20%, has his body deteriorated to this extent? Ethan, are you sure you're all right? The medication takes hold and the coughing eases. I lift my head slowly toward the woman who handed me the water and take in her face properly for the first time. She is tall, over 170, with a striking figure, and her eyes, soft and expressive, are filled with genuine concern, beautiful features, flawless makeup. She is clearly not someone who works behind the scenes. A middle-aged woman steps forward. Ethan, do you follow the singing competition circuit? Sienna here is your #1 fan. When we heard you were in the building, she insisted on coming personally. She'd love to have you perform at the finals. Whatever you name. I have barely caught my breath and my head is still not fully clear, so it takes me a beat longer than it should to connect the stunning woman in front of me with one of the biggest names in the industry. Nash Carter is gesturing frantically from the side, and I finally register just how significant this person is. Her mother is a legendary queen of the music world, and she herself is the reigning rising star. Nash Carter knows how badly I need money for treatment right now, and is doing everything he can to push this deal my way, burning a hole through me with his eyes, willing me to take the bait. Sienna Hart's vocal ability is not the pinnacle of the industry, but the money and connections behind her make her untouchable. One appearance on that stage alongside her, and the fee would be a number most people never see in a lifetime. But nobody expects what happens next. I turn them down flat. The manager's face goes dark. She had lowered herself to come here in person for someone who just arrived on the scene, and he has the nerve to shut the door in their faces. Her pride is on the floor, and her temper is not far behind. The room goes glacial with awkwardness. But Sienna Hart, for all her reputation for being difficult, does not look angry. She waves her stone-faced manager back. It was presumptuous of me to show up without an appointment. If there's ever a chance to work together down the line, I'll have my team reach out through the proper channels. I hope we get a chance to make something together someday. She has barely finished speaking when my throat gives out again, and I break into another fit. This one is not as savage as the last, but Nash Carter looks like he is about to lose his mind, because when I pull my hand away from my mouth, the tissue is stained with dark red. Ethan has coughed up blood in front of everyone. Paired with the colorless paper-white face I am wearing, Nash Carter reaches for his phone to call an ambulance, but I wipe it away like it is nothing, and tell him to put the phone down. I look up at Sienna with red-rimmed eyes. I won't play piano for you, but what if I write you a song? Everything in the room stops, a silence so complete you could hear the air move. Nash Carter's eyes look ready to fall out of his head. He cannot believe what he is hearing. The man just coughed up blood, and his first instinct is not to get into an ambulance but to sit here and write a song for a pop star on the spot. This is insane. Completely reckless. Yes, the industry respects his piano work, but pop songwriting and classical piano are entirely different worlds. He does not believe for a second that someone this young can cross over just like that, and even if by some miracle he does know how to write lyrics and melody, with the kind of industry network Sienna's mother commands, there is no producer in the world. She cannot get on the phone. Why would she settle for something dashed off in a moment? The reality arrives like a gust that knocks him sideways. Sienna had been turning to leave, but she stops, and a wide, unguarded smile breaks across her face. You'd really write something specifically for me? I nod, pale as paper, borrow a pen from someone beside me, and bear down through the searing pain deep in my liver, scrawling and sketching across the page. Sienna, watching from beside me, notices something is wrong. She sees the sweat beading across my forehead. Ethan, you don't look well. If you really can't push through this, we can always reschedule. I'm fine, give me 20 minutes. 20 minutes later, I hand the pages to Sienna. See if the style feels right to you. Sienna takes the pages and goes completely still. Nash Carter shakes his head internally. This is going to be a disaster. He supposes it is understandable. 20 minutes written through pain. What can you realistically expect? But Sienna does not move and does not speak because she is completely floored. She cannot begin to explain how someone this young could produce, in 20 minutes, a melody this carefully constructed, and lyrics this beautiful and direct. She holds back the tremor in her voice and hums the opening bars against the score, and the melody locks perfectly into the word. She realizes she has just walked into the best thing she will ever find. How I wish I could ask you again. Will you wait or will you go? On that windy day, I reached for your hand, but the rain came down so hard I lost sight of you. This is a chart-topping single without question. As Sienna keeps going, sinking deeper into the song, the shock on her face gives way to something closer to euphoria. By the time she reaches the chorus, she takes back every dismissive thought she had allowed herself. This is not just a good song. This is the kind of song that sweeps awards. Is this really mine? She asks, her voice unsteady. Am I really allowed to have this? She is trembling. Every song she has released since her debut does not come close, and she has fallen for this one completely. I give a flat nod. Of course. Pay the right price and it's yours. 3 days later, the singer finals open at Riverdale Sports Center backstage. The floor director turns to Sienna. Sienna, it's almost time. Your track for Tomorrow Never Comes is locked and ready. Do you want to run through it once before you go on? Sienna shakes her head without hesitation. I'm not singing that one. The declaration hits the room like a thunderclap. The floor director nearly drops his radio. Tomorrow Never Comes is Sienna's signature weapon. The song that has owned the charts tonight is the grand final, streaming live across every platform, and her fiercest rival Melody Moore is in the next room getting ready. Everyone had assumed Sienna would bring out her biggest weapon and go to war, and yet here she is, 10 minutes before showtime, pulling the rug out from under everyone. She ignores the director's meltdown completely and forces the production team to swap the song. I follow Sienna to the backstage control room and begin tearing through the live band arrangement with surgical precision, which bar the drums need to come in to build the energy, where the ethereal backing vocals should layer into the chorus. I give every instruction without hesitation, and the seasoned musicians around Sienna are left staring in disbelief. Every adjustment I make lands with startling precision, perfectly matched to the melancholy heart of the song director. Sullivan cannot contain himself any longer. Did you write this piece yourself? I don't think we've been introduced. He looks me up and down like he is trying to classify something he has never encountered, and the more he looks, the more familiar the pale, sharp-featured face becomes. Then it clicks. Isn't this the piano prodigy who's been all over trending? Director Sullivan draws a sharp breath, his entire understanding of the world briefly rearranging itself. Not only is this kid's piano playing something beyond human, not only has he sold classical compositions for extraordinary sums, but he can write pop music too, and arrange a full live production from scratch. A complete all-rounder of this caliber comes around, maybe once in a century. So why has no one in the industry heard of him until now? Has he been hiding everything on purpose? Playing the fool all along? My throat is too raw to answer quickly, and Sienna jumps in before I can, fiercely protective. He wrote this for me. The exclusive rights are mine. Nobody else is getting it. Director Sullivan shakes his head with a look of genuine regret that one listen to the chorus was enough to make him seriously consider buying it himself. He settles for adding me on his phone and makes me promise repeatedly to come to him first with anything new. Once every last arrangement detail is locked in, Sienna walks me out herself, apparently afraid I might change my mind. Take care, Ethan. Let's settle the final payment tomorrow somewhere quiet. I'll come pick you up. I can't thank you enough. I genuinely love this song. I wave her off without expression, letting her know I heard her, and then I unlock a shared bicycle at the curb and pedal away. Sienna watches my retreating figure wobble off on that beat-up bike, the whole absurd, oddly touching goodbye happening to be witnessed in its entirety by Melody, who has just arrived at the venue through the car window. She watches me and her greatest rival laughing together, and something squeezes painfully inside her chest, the sensation of watching something priceless be taken by someone else. The feeling is so sharp, it makes her clench her fist before the car has even fully stopped. She is out the door, storming straight towards Sienna. You shameless! Why are you with Ethan? What exactly is going on between you two behind my back? Sienna blinks, caught completely off guard by the ambush but faced with a direct challenge from her longest-standing rival. There is no version of Sienna Hart that backs down, and that accusatory tone, like something out of a confrontation scene, disgusts her. What is between me and Ethan is absolutely none of your business. You're overreaching. The world doesn't revolve around you. A stinging ache rushes straight to Melody's nose, like watching someone snatch away the toy she loved most as a child, while the thief stands there laughing and telling her it was never hers to begin with. Melody lifts her chin and plants her flag. I am his sister, legitimately. Sienna Hart goes still for a beat, her mind racing through everything she knows, until it lands. Melody had mentioned in an interview once having a useless brother, and with everything that had come out online recently about Ethan's background, the family that threw him out, that family is more estate. Once Sienna has pieced it all together, a wave of righteous anger rises in her on Ethan's behalf. Someone this extraordinary, this loyal, 20 years under the same roof and family, turns on him just like that, thrown out like he meant nothing. What is wrong with the people in your family? I remember talking to you at a red carpet event about your so-called brother. You said even mentioning him was an embarrassment to you, called him beneath you, a nobody. You couldn't distance yourself fast enough. You never once acknowledged him publicly, and then you had him removed from the family, even had his name erased from the records. And now you want to stand here and play the devoted sister. Where was the sister energy before? Don't perform for me. He's free now. He has nothing to do with you. The barrage leaves Melody with nothing to say, her defiance collapsing like air leaking from a punctured ball, because every single word Sienna said is true, and every word cuts. She had been blinded by her own assumptions, her prejudice so deep she had never seen any of it. Not a single thing Ethan had done for her, not one. She had written him off as a burden, and never once mentioned his existence in public. There are barely any people in the industry who even know Melody Moore has a brother. The weight of everything she has done floods back, and her eyes burn red. She straightens her neck, clinging to the last scrap of pride she has. Whatever you say, he is my brother, in his bones, and I will do whatever it takes to make it right and bring him back. Sienna watches Melody on the edge of tears, the first time in all their years of rivalry she has ever seen this woman's eyes go red, and for a moment, she almost feels sorry for her. She does not have the energy to keep pouring salt into the wound. They stand in a silence that stretches for nearly 20 seconds. Melody draws in a long breath and steadies herself then, as if bracing for something she has been afraid to face. She asks the question that has been circling in her mind. Was Ethan here to play piano for you? Sienna lets a slow smile curl at the corner of her mouth. Wrong guess. He wrote me a song. The finals begin not long after, with a full press presence and cameras trained on every corner of the stage. Melody's eyes are fixed on the stage. The first performer to take the stage is Sienna Hart's. Soft lights shift and pulse across the stage, and her voice fills the venue with something warm and searching. How I wish I could ask you one more time. Would you choose to stay, or would you go? On the day the wind picked up, I tried to reach for your hand, but the rain came down so hard, it blurred everything in front of me, and I couldn't see you anymore. Something shifts in the faces of the audience and the performers waiting backstage, and as the song builds toward its peak, when Sienna reaches the climax, several of the waiting performers rise to their feet. When the last note finally fades, the entire venue erupts, the audience rising as one, clapping, cheering. That song is incredible. The lyrics, they're just beautiful. Sienna, always and forever. A masterful song delivered with a performance to match the crowd is electric. More than a few people sitting in those seats feel it. This is not just a standout song, the lyrics read like poetry. Even the critics who make a living finding fault struggle to find anything to say against it because the song is simply that exceptional. Never mind that Sienna commanded the stage flawlessly, even if she had stumbled somewhere in the middle. The song itself would have held the stage up. They really shouldn't have let her go first. After a performance like that, who can honestly be moved by what comes next? Nobody notices that in a corner of the venue, Melody's eyes have gone red again. Listening to this song that has moved an entire arena, she knows with absolute certainty that Mr. Vale is Ethan, because only he could have written something like this. And the feeling it stirs inside her is something she cannot put into words. Every achievement she wears carries his shadow in it somewhere. All those songs she sang, that he had written every one of them a chart topper, and all that time he had stayed behind the curtain, giving every last bit of the light to her. The thought is too much, and her tears fall like beads from a broken string if she hadn't lost the one who had always been beside her, the one who loved her without condition, every word of praise raining down on Sienna tonight. And Sunny Day itself. All of it would have been hers. The lights are blazing on center stage, and when Melody takes the stage, the applause that greets her does not stop. Some of her most devoted fans are calling her name at the top of their lungs. They have watched her transform from someone overlooked into the reigning queen she is today, and so many of them see pieces of themselves in her journey, but none of them have ever stopped to wonder how she got here. They have simply assumed that Melody Moore built all of this on her own, but the woman standing on that stage right now is somewhere else entirely. She is thinking of the encouragement Ethan gave her over the years of the competition, where she was eliminated in the very first round cut without mercy, and how he had written a song specifically for her to tell her that when she felt like stopping, she should not in the audience. People sit up straighter. Many of them are expecting her to surpass what came before hoping she will outshine Sienna, but it becomes clear quite quickly that they have hoped for too much. The song Melody performs tonight is one she released months ago. The performance is visibly affected by everything weighing on her, small imperfections that most would miss, but the trained ear catches, and like the others, it offers no surprise. Even her longtime fans are not flooding the stream the way they usually do with the word champion. The votes are tallied quickly, and 10 minutes later, Director Sullivan steps forward and announces that the winner is Sienna Hart for her performance of Sunny Day. The moment the words leave his mouth, the stage belongs entirely to Sienna, and she drinks in every cheer, every wave of applause. Melody walks out of the venue like a ghost, because all of this, every bit of it, used to be hers. Vivian and Xavier had come to the venue. It's okay. You're still incredible. Whatever anyone says out there, I'm behind you. Always. The words reach her and something warm stirs briefly, but right at that moment, a middle-aged man bursts out from somewhere in the venue, wild-eyed and frantic, screaming, I traveled all this way and paid for a ticket. And this is what you give me? He does not get anywhere near Melody before security has him pinned, but Melody sees something that quietly devastates her. In the instant the man lunged, Xavier had instinctively stepped to the side. The look on Melody's face goes hollow. Ethan would not have moved. Vivian drives Melody home, then heads out with Xavier to purchase a car, a Rolls-Royce, picked out for Melody when they happen to cross paths with me on the street. A sleek, extraordinarily expensive car pulls up and blocks my way, coming to a full stop right in front of me. Vivian and Xavier step out. Vivian has decided this is the moment for Xavier to apologize to me, to put that old matter to rest so she can stop thinking about it. A flicker of contempt crosses Xavier's eyes. First, he finds the idea of speaking to someone like me beneath him, but if this apology keeps me away from Moore Estate for good, he decides the performance is worth it. About what I did, the false accusation, that was wrong of me. I had reasons I couldn't explain at the time. I made a foolish mistake in a moment of weakness. If you could find it in yourself to let it go, you can yell at me, hit me, whatever you need. And the others, they hope. He does not get to finish. I shove him hard. He staggers and nearly goes down, the color draining from his face, his body instinctively pulling inward. Vivian steps in front of Xavier immediately. What do you think you're doing? Have I been too lenient with you? The swiftness of it has genuinely stunned her, an outsider, raising his hand against one of them. Don't blame him. He has every right to be angry. This is my fault, all of it. Xavier steadies himself and puts on his most pitiful face, which only makes Vivian angrier. At me, look at yourself, pushing people around. It's embarrassing. Who could possibly warm to someone who behaves like this? Apologize to your brother right now. She is back in her lecturing posture, and I look at her the way you look at someone who has lost the plot entirely. I give her the flattest, most unimpressed look I have. Ms. Moore, you never liked me much when I was behaving either. And are you deaf? Xavier himself said I could hit him if I wanted. So what exactly are you jumping in for? Vivian is so furious she can barely breathe, but she cannot find a single word to use against me. Back when I lived at Moore Estate, I had done whatever they wanted and never fought back, and they had resented me anyway. And because of the prejudice she had always carried, she had not exactly been gentle with me herself. I understand you feel wronged, but you cannot go around shoving people. That kind of behavior is unacceptable. I cannot be bothered to argue further, so I get back on my bicycle and ride the fact that I am simply leaving in rages. Vivian, further, stop, right now. If you ride away from here today, don't ever expect me to acknowledge you as family again. She delivers this in full fury, and I pause on the bicycle, which makes Vivian's pulse slow slightly, but what happens next drives her fingernails so deep into her palm she nearly draws blood. I raise my middle finger at her, without turning around, and cycle away without looking back once across the city. Claire has been watching the finals online. The praise for Sienna Hart is overwhelming. going beyond the admiration for the performance itself and the astonishment at the quality of the song. There is one trending topic that carries a different kind of energy: Sienna Hart and the piano prodigy. An unusually close dynamic photographs of them walking into the venue side by side, and Sienna personally walking him to the door on the way out. The reason this topic caught fire is the photos attached below shot from a particular angle. They appear to be standing nearly pressed together as they enter. The second photo shows Sienna with a radiant smile waving goodbye to me. Claire looks at Sienna's poised, beautiful face in the photograph and remembers something I once said to her, and every last beautiful thing she had been holding on to seems to crack at once. Then she sees the official release images: Sienna standing quietly on stage, lit by several beams that fall perfectly on her, her gown catching the light beautifully, and down below, me and a few others with headphones, watching the rehearsal with full concentration. The comments under these photos are already piling up. The most liked comment is only 2 words: perfect match. Further down, someone claiming to have inside information walks through the entire story of how I won Sienna over in a comment that runs to hundreds of words. A genius composer 20 years in the making produces a masterpiece. Every singer fighting for a chance, every platform begging to collaborate, and he turned every single one of them down, because he told the world this song was written for one person alone. Claire thinks of a memory. She had worked hard to get 2 tickets and dragged me along to a concert. The venue had been packed with pink glow sticks, turning the whole night sky that color, and the singer stood under a silver light leading the whole crowd in song. She had thought it was the coolest thing she had ever seen, and without really thinking, said out loud, "If I could ever do something like that someday, hold a concert that was entirely mine." I had turned to her with complete seriousness. "Then first you need a song that's yours. Here's what I'll do. I'll write you a song someday, a legendary one, the kind every singer will fight over, and it will be written for you alone." She had found my confidence a little startling at the time, but looking at my face, completely earnest, she had actually believed me. She had blushed and said she couldn't sing to save her life, that she would need to practice first, otherwise she'd waste a perfectly good song. But everything is different. Now, I did write a song for one person, and that person was not her. The moment that thought finishes forming, the ache that has no name rises in her chest again. She opens our chat window without thinking, and compared to every photo online that had twisted something inside her, nothing stings quite like this. My messages are still unread, still unanswered. The last thread she has been holding on to snaps. She removes me from her contacts and buries herself in her blankets and cries until she has nothing left. A dull, persistent ache makes Claire wish she had never met me at all. She thinks back to middle school when a boy in her class had given her a love letter and her mother had sat her down and said, with great seriousness, "If you don't focus on your studies, you'll end up back in that small town with no movie theaters. The kind of place the artist you love would never set foot in." Claire had taken every word of it to heart and treated the idea of early romance like poison. She had torn the letter apart in front of that boy, and from that point on kept a deliberate distance from everyone until she met me in the life plan Claire had quietly built for herself. She would stay single until her career was stable, and then, at the right age, through a well-meaning introduction from someone in the family, she would find someone steady and dependable. But I had made her careful in a way she hadn't expected, suddenly conscious of how she looked, pulled toward the desire to answer every message, to keep the conversation going, experiencing for the first time the anxious, consuming fear of losing something. Even now, even in this moment, Claire can still feel how beautiful it was, like standing in the middle of spring, pink and white petals, drifting past the window and settling somewhere inside. But my sudden coldness, the way I left without a word, turned all of that beauty into something that burns. Why? The tears come again, sliding down without her permission, and somewhere deep in her chest, a faint thread of something like anger surfaces. Why give her something this good and then destroy it so completely without warning? The next day I meet Sienna Hart at a coffee shop to discuss the final terms for Sunny Day. "Ethan, I do want the full buyout genuinely, but I think you already know that signing it this way means leaving a lot of money on the table. 2 or 3 years of royalties alone could far exceed what you'd get from a one-time buyout." She wants to keep working together, and before they put pen to paper she has laid out the full picture. Honestly, I shake my head gently. 2 years, 3 years, it's all too long for me. I can't wait that long. Sienna goes, "Still can't wait." As far as she knows, even after being pushed out of Moore Estate, I had just sold 2 piano compositions I was sitting on over $4 million, so why couldn't I wait 2 or 3 years? Was the need for money really that urgent? Let's just sign. This is my decision. And right at that moment, I catch sight of the person I most want to see and most dread. Seeing Claire's face is pale, and something sharp and sudden drives straight through my chest. She speaks with the owner of the coffee shop for a moment and then puts on a staff apron. I cannot hold myself back. I have never once seen Claire take on a part-time job, and I go to her immediately, keeping my voice low. "Is something wrong? Are you in some kind of trouble? I can lend you money if you need it." I stop myself, remembering how deeply her pride runs, and quickly soften my approach at the sound of my voice. Claire's whole body goes still for just a breath. Then she catches sight of Sienna Hart not far behind me, and in her mind the image assembles itself. The two of us laughing, close, easy, and every feeling she has been holding down for days breaks free. "Stay away from me. I don't need you involving yourself in my life." The force of it sends me stumbling hard to the ground. Sienna rushes over and helps me up. Cold sweat has broken out across my forehead, and staying upright takes more effort than it should, but I keep insisting over and over that I am fine, that I just lost my footing. that it was my own fault when Claire sees me hit the ground. Something in her own body flinches. She had once sat beside me in a hospital after a fight with a stranger in the street, and vowed that next time she would be the one to protect me without hesitation, and yet she has just pushed me to the ground with her own hands. Her instinct is to go to me, but Sienna has already beaten her to it. Claire's eyes burn red as she shoves through the door and runs back at the table. Sienna cannot hold back. Ethan, are you actually all right? Is there some kind of misunderstanding between you two? She has already pieced together that we were something more than friends couples argue. It happens. I wave her off and try to speak, but my throat seizes and a dry cough escapes before I can stop it. This time Sienna sees the blood on the tissue clearly. We're going to the hospital. Now. I had a deflection ready, but the coughing comes back harder, and this time the entire tissue comes away. Red Sienna does not wait for permission. Her phone is already in her hand, dialing emergency services. I stop her by telling her the truth. The doctor diagnosed me with a terminal illness, told me to eat well, rest well, and spend whatever time I have left doing what I want, so I don't leave with regrets. The words hit Sienna like a physical weight, and her hand freezes in midair, the phone still in her grip. Then everything clicks into place for her. Why I had said 2 years. 3 years. I can't wait, and thinking back on everything that has happened to me, thrown out of the only home I had known for 20 years, and then handed this by fate on top of it all, she wants to say something, anything, even if it changes nothing, but something else surfaces in her mind. That girl just now, was she angry because of you? If so, you should go explain things to her. I shake my head slowly. It's my fault. I hurt her. After I got the diagnosis, I ended things. I was the one who brought it up. A long silence follows. She understands the reasoning but cannot fully agree with it, choosing to end a relationship because you have less than a year left, so that the other person can live their life freely. Most people would understand that, but she had watched Claire's reaction just now, and it was unmistakably clear that Claire knows nothing about the illness, which means I had kept it from her deliberately. Why would you hide it from her? What was the reason? In the beginning, when we first started spending time together, I could sense something guarded in her. Hard to name. Over time, as she opened up more, she shared things she'd buried for a long time. Because of something that happened in her family. She had hurt herself once, and there was a time I was in hospital after an injury, and she held my hand and told me, if you die, I won't keep living either. I know people say things like that and don't always mean them literally, but I have a feeling about her that I can't shake. This cafe, it's not one of yours, is it? I'm asking you to quietly keep an eye on her for me, and find out why she suddenly took a job here. One more thing, I need you to keep my condition completely confidential. That's why I told you everything. Sienna gives her word, and she means it. The whole tangled story leaves her with an ache she was not expecting, but from a different angle she finds herself quietly envying what exists between us, having grown up inside the entertainment industry from childhood. She has always rolled her eyes at the idea of true love. Sienna drives me home herself, and they pull up just as Melody is arriving. What are you doing here? Melody says, looking at Sienna. Then her eyes land on the blood staining my collar. Where did that blood come from? Are you hurt? She reaches toward my collar to look more closely, and I step back instinctively. Haven't I made myself clear enough? Why do you keep showing up here like this? At those words, Melody's eyes fill instantly. How can you talk to me like that? Ethan, I genuinely care about your health. Well, isn't that something? What exactly is this kind of care worth, this late? I collapsed so many times under that roof. No one came, and I survived just fine on my own, didn't I? Every word lands with a barb, and Melody feels each one like a sharp pain spreading through her chest. Because it is true, she had never once genuinely checked on me all those times I had gone alone for checkups she is only finding out about. Let me take you for a full checkup right now. Even Sienna, standing nearby, cannot watch this without feeling something from the few cold, clipped exchanges she has witnessed. She can tell that Ethan's years at Moore Estate were probably spent living like a servant, and quite possibly worse than one, because if a member of the household staff had collapsed, even the Moore sisters would have offered some passing concern, but they had never once paid attention to Ethan's health. If they had arranged a thorough checkup even a few years earlier, his condition might never have reached this point. He might have been like any other young person living out a full and healthy life, but it is too late for any of that. His countdown has less than a year left on it, and only now, at this point, do they think to care. What good does any of it do? There was a time when hearing these words, feeling this concern would have made me curl up under a blanket and smile for days, but now everything is too late. I pull my hand away from Melody's grip with a sharp jerk. Get away from me. How can you speak to me so coldly? I'm begging you. Please, just come with me to the hospital. She has not finished speaking when I collapse without warning. The sudden fall sends Melody into a panic. She freezes completely at a loss. What are you standing there for? Get him into the car. Hospital. Now. Sienna's anger on my behalf is genuine. Someone this good saddled with sisters, this cold and indifferent on the way to the hospital. Melody's thoughts are in complete chaos, and whenever she has been faced with sudden panic like this, her instinct has always been to turn to Vivian. First, she fumbles for her phone and dials Vivian. Vivian speaks first. I was just about to call you. Where have you been? Get back here. Xavier says he needs to talk to you about something. Melody's voice breaks as she speaks. I went to find Ethan. Why would you go all that way for that ungrateful wretch? I have told you countless times, stay away from him. Do you know he shoved Xavier yesterday? Stay away from someone like that. It's not safe. Her tone softens slightly as she continues. Melody, are you crying? Come home and tell me everything. I'll sort it out for you. Ethan was fine one moment, and then he just collapsed. He's burning up. It's terrifying. I'm taking him to the hospital right now. If they find something serious, I'm genuinely terrified right now. Terrified that I might not even get the chance to make things right. There is a noticeable pause on Vivian's end. As the words settle and her voice softens a fraction more. Stop catastrophizing. He's young. It's probably nothing serious. Skip too many meals. Low blood sugar. At worst, that old hepatitis has flared up a little. A few days in hospital with a drip and he'll be fine. And even if, worst case scenario, something does come up, what does that have to do with our family? Stop spiraling on your own. The car pulls up at the hospital and Melody hangs up. The doctor who examined me comes out to meet her. You're the family member? Once he wakes up, you can take him home to rest. A burst of relief floods through Melody at those words. So there's nothing seriously wrong with him? The doctor gives her an odd look. Something about this family member strikes him as strange. Has your brother never mentioned his condition to you? He was just here last week for a follow-up. I've reviewed his latest results thoroughly. There is no need for further hospitalization. No further tests are necessary. Just take him home and make sure he stays in good spirits. It may help slow the progression, even if only slightly. With every word the doctor speaks, Melody feels as though a hand is closing around her throat. Her legs give out beneath her, and she sinks onto the bed. This is the most authoritative hospital in the country. And even here, the verdict is that nothing more can be done. Then where in this entire world is there left to turn? All Melody can feel is a despair so complete it has no bottom. Then a detail surfaces, something Vivian had mentioned casually over a meal said in passing the day Vivian called to tell Ethan the truth about his birth and coldly ordered him to leave immediately. Was the same day he had walked out of this hospital with his terminal diagnosis. The timeline fits together perfectly, which means in the moment Ethan found out he was dying a thunderbolt out of a clear sky, he received that call ordering him out of the only home he had. Melody pictures it, and the cruelty of what the three of them did is almost unbearable to look at. In the darkest, most helpless moment of his entire life, they had joined hands and thrown him out without mercy, and he had said nothing, swallowed it all, and carried it alone. Every detail that comes to her breaks something open, and she breaks down completely in the hospital room. The regret is real, and it is enormous. She is furious at herself for the day. Vivian spoke a few words in her ear, and she cast that vote without a second thought. She hates herself for not seeing sooner what Ethan was, for never turning toward the one who had quietly given everything. If she had paid attention even a little earlier, she would have found the best doctors, spared no cost, would have found the courage to stand up to Vivian, and fought with everything she had to keep Ethan home, kept him close, kept him safe. But she had been naive enough to believe that if she just kept showing up, I would eventually forgive her, and that once I came back, everything would simply return to how it had been, those evenings playing piano together in the fading light. But the reality in front of her is brutal grief, so acute it blurs everything she looks at, and her mind unravels into fragments, images cycling through like a lantern spinning in the dark. She remembers holding my hand, looking up at the stars together in the summer breeze. She remembers the times I had stepped in front of her, without thinking of myself. Everything she has built, every achievement she wears was built on Ethan's willingness to stay hidden, to let the applause and the glory pass over him in the dark, and give every chance to shine to her instead. Song after song going viral. She had made it to the biggest music award stage she had ever dreamed of. And after her speech, the press had swarmed around her. One sharp entertainment outlet had asked what had driven her to where she stood today, and who was the person she most wanted to thank. She had thanked many people with grace and composure, and from the stage she had spotted me standing in the crowd, and seeing how plainly and poorly I was dressed, she had felt embarrassed to be associated with me, so she had not mentioned me once the sharp-eyed outlet noticed and pressed her. There are rumors online that you have a brother who grew up with you, who has been quietly sitting beside you at the piano since you were both very young. Do you have nothing to say to him on a night like this? But Melody had believed, completely and without question, that everything she had achieved had nothing to do with me, and so she had answered with two words, flat and dismissive, no one. But I, standing in that crowd, had not looked hurt. I had been smiling for her, genuinely, unreservedly, because she was being praised by so many people. Ethan, this time let it be my turn. Let me spend whatever is left fighting for you. Her voice has gone rough from crying. She sees a missed call from Vivian and calls back before Vivian can say a word. Melody speaks first, without hesitation. I've completely changed my mind. I'm bringing Ethan home. Vivian erupts. What are you talking about? Have I not explained this to you clearly enough? Your real brother was shoved by him just yesterday, and now you want to bring him back? What do you think that does to Xavier? Melody's voice comes back sharp and loud. Isn't Ethan the brother I watched grow up? If you are forcing me to choose between the two of them, I choose Ethan without hesitation. And Xavier getting shoved, didn't he bring that on himself? If he can't accept that, then he can pack his things and leave. Vivian completely loses it on the other end. Have you lost your mind? Listen to yourself. Everyone in the city knows we've reunited with our real brother, and now you want to push him out? What do you think people will say about the Moore family? But through the phone comes Melody's voice, broken and desperate. Ethan has an incurable illness. The doctor said he has less than a year left. On the very day he received that diagnosis, when he was at his lowest, we threw him out. The words reach Vivian and the line goes completely silent. Melody holds her breath, hoping that guilt alone will be enough to make Vivian say yes, but what she hears instead is something she could not have prepared for. Transfer some money to his account. Consider it financial compensation from the Moore family. No one asks to get sick, but his illness has nothing to do with us. What's done is done. Having him come back to Moore Estate now, do you honestly think that is the rational right thing to do? The calculation in Vivian's mind is precise. If she gives in and lets me move back, Xavier, who never fails to cause trouble, will tear the house apart and the household will descend into chaos again. She steadies herself with this reasoning and softens her tone just slightly. Melody, I'm asking you, stop this. Xavier suffered for years out there. Don't do something that would hurt him, like this. During this entire phone call, Xavier has been standing nearby, listening when he hears Melody say she would choose me over him. He goes pale with rage, his entire body trembling. But when the second half reaches him, and he learns that I have less than a year left to live, the corner of his mouth twists with a satisfaction he can barely conceal. Every version of you deserve it cycling through his mind, and the only thing that spoils it is why the nuisance is not dying sooner. Why is fate giving him another year? Melody has heard enough. I completely disagree with everything you just said. She hits the end call button hard. At the same time in the hospital room, I stir as consciousness begins to return. Making a small sound, Melody is at my side, immediately eyes red. Ethan, you're awake. Did my call disturb you? I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Once my head is fully clear, I give her one sentence. Yes, now get out. Her breath catches, and she struggles to find air. Please don't talk to me like that. She does not finish. Who exactly are you performing this for? The tears fall from her like something breaking. You're weak. Don't move. I'm leaving. Only when she is gone does the room feel quiet from the state she was in just now. She has almost certainly found out everything, but it does not matter to me anymore. I have no desire to have anything to do with the Moore family. Melody gets into the car outside the hospital, but does not start the engine. She just sits there. The wind has picked up, dragging heavy rain with it, the windshield covered in beads of water, and listening to the rain, her grief deepens. She thinks of other rainy days, the ones where I had sat beside her all day at the piano. As long as my music was playing, she had never felt alone. And now that sound is growing further away. Melody picks up her phone through her tears and searches for my name online. The first thing that appears stops her cold. A post from the woman who falsely accused me, claiming I am dangerous. Melody clicks immediately, and it is exactly what she feared. The same woman who had fabricated the accusation against me, for reasons unknown, has revised the original false account and posted it again, claiming her previous apology had been made under pressure, and that she is now choosing to speak her truth. She has even pinned a comment to the top, if I stay silent today, and the same thing happens to someone else tomorrow, there will be no one left to speak up. Although the original incident was over a year ago, the current online attention surrounding Ethan has given the post traction, and the comments are already multiplying with reactions split in every direction. Bystanders tend to default to the side of whoever appears more vulnerable, and even without a shred of evidence, there are already voices piling on against me. Melody's fist closes tight. The last time something like this happened to Ethan, she had not stepped in, had not even checked on him, and he had carried the weight of it alone this time. Even if it is only to ease her own guilt, even if it is just to give herself some small measure of peace, she will see it through to the end. With that, she dials her lawyer. There is something I need you to handle. The woman who made false accusations against Ethan before, she has started again. I've sent you the link. On the other end, the lawyer pulls it up. I'll contact her now and have the post taken down. But Melody stops him immediately. No, we gave her a chance before. This time I want to press charges. I'm leaving it in your hands. Are you certain about this? Does Vivian know? Melody does not hesitate for even a second. She has no idea. If she asks, tell her this was my decision. The lawyer goes quiet for a moment. Have the sisters fallen out? But since Melody has made herself clear, he has no reason to hesitate. This shouldn't be a difficult case. I collected a significant amount of evidence back then. Vivian said she wanted it handled quietly at the time, so none of it was ever used. This time we can use all of it. Everything. Hearing this, a thought surfaces. Xavier was the one who had put that woman up to it. If the case goes to court, would Xavier get pulled in too? But she pushes the thought aside quickly. So what if he does? He chose to do this to Ethan. Whatever comes his way, he brought it on himself across town. The woman in question is sitting back with a self-satisfied look, lounging comfortably on her sofa. She had almost forgotten the whole thing. But over the past few days, she had watched the person she falsely accused suddenly go viral, and an idea had taken shape. She had decided to use the old accusation as leverage and squeeze some money out of me. Her reasoning was simple: people with money don't care about small amounts. Last time the whole thing had blown up and ended with nothing more than an apology, so the reward far outweighed the risk. But I had not responded the way she expected. I had sent back a single word: get lost. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got, so she had dug up the old fabricated post, revised it, and published it again today. Her expectation was that before long I would reach out and beg her to take it down, because nobody with a following doesn't care about their reputation, especially someone with as many fans as me. She had settled in front of the television to wait. Half an hour later, the doorbell rings. She assumes it is a food delivery and goes to answer it, but 2 police officers are standing outside. "You are the person who goes by this name, correct?" She blinks and nods slowly. "Here is the situation. You published a post online this morning. Someone has come forward with evidence that the content is fabricated. We need you to come with us for questioning." She stands there, completely frozen. It's illegal to post online now? If the content is fabricated, and it damages another person's reputation, and the view count crosses a certain threshold, then yes, it may constitute a criminal offense. Cold sweat breaks out across her. Instantly, she grabs her phone in a panic, and sees that the post's view count has multiplied several times over in the past half hour. Her legs go weak with fright, and she sinks straight to the floor. Half an hour later, inside the police station, the lawyer watches her walk in and rises with a pleasant smile. "We meet again." Recognizing him, she stops struggling and deflates. "The post may have been somewhat exaggerated. Can I just do what I did last time? Delete it and apologize?" The lawyer lets out a quiet laugh, and that sound alone makes her stomach drop. "Since you've admitted the content was false, let me be straightforward with you. The post has already exceeded 1 million views. We will be proceeding with formal charges." The gravity of the situation hits her, and she turns to the officer beside her and whispers, "What happens if the defamation is considered serious?" The answer breaks her on the spot. If the other party refuses to drop the charges, a custodial sentence is very likely. Then why didn't anyone tell me sooner? I posted at 9 this morning. Why is he only coming to me now? He must have seen it hours ago. He deliberately waited until the views went up, and then came after me. Isn't that entrapment? You should be going after him, not me. The lawyer offers no response. The law is the law, and evidence speaks louder than excuses. No amount of complaining changes anything. Though if he is honest, he does feel a small flicker of sympathy when Melody had called him, and he had pulled up the post. It already had significant traction, but if his client wants to press charges, he will do exactly that. The officer steps in. None of that matters right now. Cases like this are typically dropped if the complainant withdraws. If you can obtain their forgiveness, and they agree to withdraw, you'll be in the clear. A thread of hope surfaces in her. She is about to offer a verbal apology, but quickly realizes that will not be enough. After all, she had tried apologizing before and been ignored, so she takes a breath and calls her father, afraid of being scolded. She gives him a carefully softened version of events. 10 minutes later, her parents burst through the door, furious because of the way she had framed it. They believe the lawyer has been threatening their daughter, and their anger tips over the edge. Then, when the lawyer flatly states that no apology will be accepted, the couple decides. Their daughter is finished, and lunges forward. The room descends into complete chaos. The 2 officers in the room cannot contain it. Other officers on duty hear the commotion and rush in before order is restored. The lawyer, having taken a minor hit in the scuffle, stares blankly as he is helped to his feet. He has one quiet thought: they are absolutely, unmistakably related on my end. After speaking with Dr. Reeves, I leave with a prescription for medication to help prevent sudden collapses. None of it is covered by insurance. $20,000. A bottle. After writing the prescription, Dr. Reeves explains why he had not prescribed these. Before, they do nothing to slow the illness itself, and for most families, the cost alone would be devastating, so he does not recommend them as a matter of course. I ask a follow-up question. If money were no object, what options would there be? Dr. Reeves actually has an answer: injections, running into the millions per dose, a cutting-edge cellular therapy team working from a fully customized treatment protocol with daily costs calculated in the millions and the odds of success vanishingly small. At best, it offers the very wealthy one final sliver of psychological comfort. In the end, Dr. Reeves tells me quietly to take in the world and live well. I thank him and walk out of the hospital. The sound of rain follows me, my feet finding puddles in the uneven pavement, and a tiredness settles over me. Unlike anything I have felt before, something that has been pulled taut inside me for a long time finally snaps, and the exhaustion floods in. I had thought I had made peace with it, but standing here, I realize I have let go of nothing. Sunny still plays hopscotch in front of me, still burrows into my arms and calls me her brother. Helen cries whenever she notices I am not. Well, I have only just found a real home and learned what it feels like to want things. I have found someone I love completely, and all of it could be taken from me at any moment. Mom, I don't want to die like this. I crouch down on the wet ground and fall apart. The grief that has been buried at the very bottom of me rises past every barrier I built and spreads. When it passes, I pick up my umbrella, stand up, and keep walking toward home. At the intersection, a traffic officer is still directing the flow of cars. No matter how completely a person falls apart, the city keeps moving. Meanwhile, at Moore Estate, a single offhand comment from Xavier about wanting something different to eat has sent Butler Hayes scrambling to redo the entire menu. He rushes to have the kitchen draft a new one from scratch, sourcing different ingredients, then coordinating with 2 more household staff to fulfill Xavier's additional request, switching the entire table setting from Chinese to Western style. Hours of work from everyone involved, and the meal is finally on the table just in time. Xavier surveys the perfectly prepared beef in front of him and gives a satisfied nod. More than the quality of the food itself, it is the feeling of being waited on like this that he savors most. He opens a bottle of champagne, pours himself a glass. To you, Vivian. Xavier lifts his glass and turns his smile toward Melody across the table, but his hand is trembling slightly. As he holds it up, Melody acts as though she heard nothing, cutting her steak in a daze. Vivian gives a quiet cough beside her. Melody, Xavier is speaking to you. Melody finally speaks. Other than having that woman make false accusations against Ethan, is there anything else you did to hurt him? Xavier's face freezes and his voice takes on a faint, aggrieved thickness. Why would you say something like that to me? What I did before was wrong, I admit that, but that was the only time. If you don't believe me, I'll go to the station right now and prove it. Melody listens and responds with a cold smile. Then go ahead, call them. Vivian slaps the table. Enough. Stop this. Calling the police to investigate. Do you want to destroy what's left of this family's reputation? The Moore sisters forcing their own brother to prove his innocence to the police. If that gets out, we will never hear the end of it. Melody almost laughs. Wasn't Ethan her brother too? Hadn't Vivian forced him to prove himself back then? But Vivian's priority has always been the Moore name, and she would never in 1,000 years allow police to come investigate her own household, so Xavier had known that when he made his offer, and had the audacity to say it anyway. Seeing Melody go quiet, and Vivian siding with him, Xavier finds his footing. I know you don't like me, Melody, but I really want you and Vivian to get along. Please stop fighting because of me. If you two can just be at peace with each other, I'll move out right now. I mean it. By the time he finishes, Xavier has moved himself, his eyes faintly reddening at the edges, which only makes Vivian more convinced that Melody is being completely unreasonable. I know you feel guilty about Ethan's illness, but no one wanted this to happen, and it has nothing to do with us. I'll say something you won't want to hear. The decision to make Ethan leave, wasn't that something we all agreed to? At those words, something in Melody's chest stings like a needle going in. Yes, she thinks quietly of who she was back then. Why had she been so weak? Why couldn't she stand by what she believed? She had become one of the people who drove me out. Vivian keeps pressing, let it go, Melody. Look at us right now. A family, sharing a meal together. What could be better than this? Why bring up someone who has already left and ruin it for everyone? Melody's smile is hollow and bitter. How is she supposed to let go? Ethan had given his entire life to her once again. She does not do as Vivian says. I am going to bring Ethan back. I want him to come home. And if Xavier has done anything else to hurt him, I will find out every single thing. But right at that moment, a member of the household staff approaches Xavier and murmurs something in his ear. Xavier's expression twists violently. He flings his arm out, sending everything on the table in front of him crashing to the floor. Wine splashes across the ground. Butler Hayes lets out a heavy sigh from where he stands. It looks like there is more work ahead. Vivian startles visibly. Xavier, what is wrong with you? Xavier's eyes have gone red, and he points directly at Melody. Why did you send a lawyer after her? Why are you having her charged? If she names me as the one who put her up to it, what happens then? Did you think about that for even 1 second? Melody has known all along that Xavier was performing, and seeing his real face emerge now, she almost laughs. What happens? Whatever the law says happens. If you get pulled into it, didn't you bring that on yourself? When you decided to do what you did you think it through then? Vivian watches the two of them erupt and feels completely lost. It takes her a while to piece together what is happening. She calls over the staff member who had spoken to Xavier, and what she hears confirms what she already suspected. It goes back to the false accusation against Ethan. But she has to stand with Xavier because he is her real brother. Before their parents died, they had made it clear the Moore name must not be allowed to fade this generation, must hold on to the family's wealth and reputation all these years. Vivian has carried those words close to protect the prosperity of the Moore family. She has done many things that went against her own conscience, each one compounding on the last like a snowball rolling downhill, and the more she does, the heavier it becomes. But she has no choice but to keep going, and so, with the family's survival always at the front of her mind, after her real brother disappeared, she had brought an adopted son into the Moore household to fill the gap, but because Ethan did not carry Moore blood, no matter what he did, Vivian could not change the way she saw him, could not rid herself of the deep-seated aversion she felt. And so Ethan had lived in this household for over a decade, like someone at the bottom of the hierarchy. Whatever feeling Vivian had ever shown toward him was never really family love. It was closer to the attachment one develops for a pet, something that grows from years of simply coexisting. So between Ethan and Xavier, there is no comparison in Vivian's mind for the Moore name, and for the continuation of the Moore line, she will always stand with Xavier back at the table. Melody's words have left Xavier red-faced. The thought of being implicated, of facing actual consequences, and Melody's threat to remove him from the house turns Xavier's fury rapidly into something darker, but he does not dare direct it openly at Melody, afraid of how Vivian would react, so he turns it on the room instead, grabbing and smashing things around him, pouring his rage into anything within reach. Butler Hayes watches from the side, his face creased with deep worry. The scented candles. There should be more in storage. That expensive coffee maker. That model is going to be very hard to replace. The hand-stitched silk tablecloth. 2 days for a custom order, and that porcelain vase. Wait. Butler Hayes is just about to speak up when Xavier has already lifted it above his head, the most prominent piece in the entire dining room, and brings it down with full force. A sharp crack and shards scatter across the floor. Butler Hayes closes his eyes for a moment and thinks, that is very bad. He is still deciding whether to step in when Melody surges forward and delivers a hard slap. The stinging heat across his face is the moment Xavier realizes what has just happened. Then he sees her arm draw back again and he flinches, clutching his face and putting on a pitiful expression. Vivian steps in immediately and shoves Melody back, pulling Xavier behind her. Apologize to your brother. The force of it sends Melody stumbling 2 steps back. Whether it is watching the vase be smashed without a second thought, or having her own sister shove her, all of it crashes down on Melody at once, and she breaks down completely, sobbing, "That was a gift from Mr. Vale. Don't stop me." But Vivian does not move. "Melody, how long are you going to keep this up? Do you really think he meant to break it? I'll have Hayes buy you 10 just like it tomorrow. Now apologize to your brother. Right now. I am not joking." Seeing the Xavier forces out a couple of tears. "I'm so sorry, Melody. I had no idea that vase meant so much to you. It was all my fault. I deserve to be hit." Vivian casts a pained look at Xavier's reddened cheek, then steps forward and grabs Melody firmly by the wrist, pulling hard. "He is your real brother." Melody does not react in time, but her body instinctively pulls back, loses its footing, and she falls to the floor. Vivian sees it and a flicker of panic crosses her face. "Melody, I didn't mean to. Get up, please. Come on." The hand she offers is slapped away. "Either he leaves or I do." Melody looks at Xavier with nothing but contempt. That vase was from Mr. Vale, the only gift Ethan had ever given her, and possibly the last one he ever will. That thought breaks her open all over again every birthday she has. Had there always been something from Ethan, carefully prepared, and she had never once treated it as anything. Vivian hears those words and something in her nearly gives way too. A shimmer of tears rising in her eyes. "Melody, why do you have to say things like this? He is your brother. You are his sister." Xavier, also on the floor, can no longer hide the venom in his eyes. He resents that I am still alive, clinging to one more year. Why am I not dying right now? He resents Melody for taking the side of an outsider and threatening to take back the life he fought so hard to claim. The hatred makes his teeth tremble in this moment. He wants both of them gone. "Melody, please. I won't make you apologize. Can't we just live as a family in peace? Why does it always come to this? Stop fighting over Ethan. Whatever else you want to say, this family raised him. 20 full years. Have we truly wronged him that badly?" Vivian presses a hand to her forehead, a headache closing in, and right at that moment Xavier pours more fuel onto it. "It's all my fault, Vivian. Every single thing, all my fault. Melody has every right to be angry at me. Since Melody clearly can't stand having me here, I'll leave right now. I'll go to the station and answer for what I did." Melody pulls out her phone without hesitation. "Keep going. Don't stop on my account. I'll have my lawyer come draw up the paperwork first, to get your registration removed from this household. Then I'll walk you to the station myself. I'd love to see exactly how you plan to make amends." Vivian sees it clearly now. This household can only hold one of them, and the realization undoes something in her. Tears rise in her eyes. "Melody, why are you pushing it this far? Do you not care at all about what this does to the Moore name?" Melody's voice breaks as she answers, "Then just kick me out, Vivian, the same way you kicked out Ethan. On my end, I have boarded a bus and taken a window seat staring out at the sky, mind drifting after what Dr. Reeves told me. I have one more reason. To earn money, even if the treatment option is a long shot. Having more money in hand is always better than not. The 2 piano compositions brought in $4 million. The 2 songs sold to Sienna brought in $3 million more. That should be enough to move the family somewhere better. And I found out last night that Sunny's teacher has been conducting herself in ways that violate every basic standard, targeting Sunny at every turn. So I plan to sit down with Helen soon and get Sunny transferred to a better school. As for the teacher running that illegal tutoring operation, once Sunny is safely settled somewhere new, I will find a lawyer and give that teacher a surprise she did not plan for. After all of that, the millions will probably be mostly gone. So I send Sienna a message. "Are you free? Let me take you to eat. I wrote a few songs while I was in the hospital. I'd like to show you and see if any of them work for you." Sienna's reply comes quickly. Just a string of question marks followed by several rounds of checking whether I am serious. Once I confirm that I mean it, she agrees without any further hesitation. I put the phone away, and a heavy tiredness settles over me. Dr. Reeves had mentioned this enormous side effect of the new medication. A short rest is all it takes, so I drift into that halfway place between sleep and waking. A few stops pass, and the bus fills with more passengers. I am jolted awake by a sharp voice. "Young man, these seats are reserved for the elderly, disabled, and pregnant." A middle-aged woman has looked around and apparently decided I am the easiest target. She walks straight over to me. I have ridden buses long enough to have met plenty of people like this, some far worse, the kind who say, refusing to give up your seat is a moral failure. If she were genuinely elderly, that would be one thing, but she looks to be barely past 40. Does that really qualify? When I appear to ignore her completely, she immediately escalates. "I'm talking to you. Are you deaf or sick or what? I'm telling you, I have a senior citizen card. This seat is rightfully mine. I reach into my bag and pull out the report I had printed at the hospital and hand it to her. I have late-stage liver cancer. I just regained consciousness. I came straight from the hospital. She takes the report on instinct, and then those words reach her and it lands like a blow to the chest. A wave of self-reproach follows immediately, after others nearby have heard it too, and their eyes shift to her with quiet judgment. But she cannot bring herself to apologize, pride getting in the way, so she simply moves to the side and goes silent. When the bus reaches my stop, I get off through the window. She watches me walk away, coughing weakly with each step, and the urge to slap herself rises. Unbidden. What is wrong with me? I arrive at a lively outdoor food stall, order a spread of food, and sit down to wait for Sienna. 20 minutes later, her car pulls up at the curb. A sports car worth more than most people earn in a lifetime, and the woman who steps out, wearing sunglasses that do nothing to hide who she is, draws immediate stares from everyone nearby. Sienna spots me waving and makes her way over. When she gets there, she sees the small plastic stool waiting for her, and after a beat of visible hesitation, she sits down, having already seen me ride off on a shared bicycle. She had already guessed that I would not be taking her anywhere upscale, but this is still a level below what she had imagined. She glances at the stall next door, where flies are circling above the ingredients, and someone accustomed to clean, well-lit dining finds this genuinely difficult to sit with. She quietly prepares herself to eat nothing. Ethan, are you all right now? I'm fine. Got some new medication. Shouldn't be collapsing like that again, though the medicine is quite expensive. So here I am, trying to earn more. Sienna stares at him for a moment. She gets the distinct impression that I had decided I needed money first, and then sat down and wrote the songs. If that is actually how it happened, the talent is genuinely terrifying good. You scared me when you collapsed like that. Her curiosity about the songs takes over. Ethan, where are these songs? Right at that moment, the owner brings out everything I ordered. I scoop myself a bowl of fried rice, then fill one for Sienna to the brim and press it down firmly with the spoon. I've worked out the ideas already. I was writing while I waited for you. Not finished yet though. Eat first. Sienna looks at the bowl of fried rice, and her expression becomes visibly awkward. Out of politeness, she accepts it with both hands and says thank you, but has absolutely no intention of touching it. I shovel down 2 large mouthfuls, then pick up a pen and keep writing, alternating between scribbling and eating, and somehow, watching me, Sienna realizes she is actually hungry. She surveys the spread on the table, and after considerable deliberation, reaches for a skewer of stinky tofu. The moment she bites through the scalding outside, her eyes go wide purely in terms of flavor. This is actually not bad. She sets down the skewer and reaches for the fish balls I had been eating. One goes in, and her eyes light up. This is genuinely delicious. And right at that moment, I hand over the third finished song. Sienna sets down the grilled wing she had just picked up and takes the pages with both hands. Reading carefully, looking at all 3 pieces, Sienna becomes more convinced than ever that Ethan must be the mysterious Mr. Vale who had been writing for Melody all along. The thought brings back the memory of the first time she had met Melody. She had been seated beside her and spoken with poorly concealed pride. I know both of the top songwriters in the industry. Both of them. And they've both agreed to write for me. Melody had looked genuinely envious because these were legendary figures in the songwriting world. Money alone could not buy a collaboration with them. But right at that moment, Melody's phone had given a quiet buzz, and she had broken into a radiant smile. I know Mr. Vale. Back at Moore Estate, Butler Hayes waves the other staff away, and they visibly exhale with relief, grateful eyes following him as they hurry out of the storm. Butler Hayes has watched Vivian grow up from childhood and considers himself someone who knows her well. In his view, ever since Vivian took over the Moore household from the previous generation, the hardest thing she has had to do, the thing that has cost her the most, has probably been restraining herself from completely favoring Xavier. So she instinctively overlooks a great deal of what Xavier does. In her mind, he is a naive, love-starved child who sometimes makes foolish mistakes. Butler Hayes does not share this view. After Xavier moved into Moore Estate, Vivian had assigned Hayes to personally look after Xavier's room, and every morning when he goes in to clean, he can smell a different woman's perfume, and sometimes finds false eyelashes on the floor, nail stickers, and other small traces of company. He has also found, in the drawer of Xavier's room, several pieces of jewelry belonging to Vivian. In all his years here, he has never once seen Vivian willingly give away jewelry she has worn, so he has drawn his own conclusion. Xavier had most likely taken them without asking, probably to give to the women he brought around. But this is not the kind of thing he asks about, and certainly not something he volunteers. He keeps up the appearance of knowing nothing. Even though Vivian runs the household, he cannot afford to offend any of the principals. That is the lesson years in this house have taught him. If you want to keep your position at Moore Estate, do not make an enemy of anyone with power over you. Which is also why, back when Ethan had been treated worse than the household staff, Butler Hayes had still extended him what respect he could. In Butler Hayes's eyes, Xavier has never been anything close to naive or foolish, not even slightly. Melody, what are you saying? How could I ever bring myself to send you away? Please stop putting me in this position. One of you is my real sister. One is my real brother. How am I supposed to choose between you? I am not going to drive either of you out. Vivian is barely holding together, her voice going rough. Xavier, tomorrow you will find an identical vase and replace it. It's all my fault, Melody. Please don't be angry with me anymore. I'll replace it before I go. He reaches out to help Melody up, but she flings his hand away. Don't touch me. A grown man constantly playing the victim like this. Do you not find yourself disgusting? Xavier lets a few tears fall. I'll leave right now. Vivian grabs his arm immediately. You are not going anywhere today. Then she turns to Melody with something close to disbelief in her eyes. Xavier is your real brother. He is the only brother any of us will ever have. Without him, can we even call this a real family? Can the Moore name carry on? Why have you become so narrow-minded about this? Why are you forcing me into a choice like this? Xavier has had a hard enough life already. All those years out there, struggling. And this is how you treat him now? Melody shakes her head repeatedly. She does not accept Vivian's definition of suffering. Xavier was not out there homeless and alone. He had adoptive parents and a normal life, and if suffering is enough to keep earning forgiveness, then what about Ethan? Why did living like a servant in this house for over a decade still end with Vivian being the one to throw him out? And precisely because Vivian keeps evading the question, Melody has already found her answer. She turns and walks away. Vivian's voice cracks. Melody, come back right now! But she does not run after her. The way she had grabbed Xavier does not reach out to stop her, and yet Melody does stop. She turns and walks directly towards Xavier, and a sharp crack fills the room. Xavier's ears ring, and the other cheek flushes red in front of everyone's eyes. Watch your mouth from now on. As she turns to leave, the corner of her eye catches Xavier's mouth curving lips, moving without any sound coming out, but the shape of it makes it perfectly clear he is mouthing something vile, so Melody turns back and delivers another one. Good thing your face is tough enough, otherwise my hand would be hurting. With that, she walks out of the dining room without looking back. Vivian snaps back to herself. Melody, get back here! But nothing comes back through the door. Xavier, both cheeks now swelling, feels humiliation, pain, and hatred rising together in one overwhelming wave. His back teeth are clenched so hard they might crack, his eyes fixed on the direction she left. Only now does Butler Hayes venture to speak. Let me go check on her. He has no interest in letting this escalate further, and going out to speak with Melody now is the most likely way to bring her back. Right at that moment, Xavier speaks up through tears. Vivian, he manages between sobs. Let me go with Hayes to find her. Once she's back, I'll rent a place outside. When she's ready to forgive me, I'll come back and apologize properly. Vivian's voice is unsteady when she answers. No one is to go after her for the next 2 days. She cannot keep being indulged like this. Don't worry. When your second sister comes back, I'll explain everything to her. Melody won't hold out for long. She might well come back on her own tomorrow. Xavier opens his mouth to add something, but Vivian cuts him off with a wave. Deal with the situation involving that woman first. Don't worry, it's nothing we can't handle. In Vivian's mind, this is a matter of one phone call, but when she reaches the lawyer, she finds out otherwise. This can't be settled quietly the way it was before. Last time went smoothly, because Ethan was still part of the Moore household. I had a brief word with him at the time, conveyed that Vivian wanted the matter dropped, and that was why he chose not to pursue it. As for now, Ethan has left the Moore family. On what grounds am I supposed to talk him out of anything? Not long ago, the lawyer had helped the Moore family have my household registration removed, and he has drawn the obvious conclusion that the split is complete, which is why he speaks so plainly. Vivienne is completely thrown. She had nearly forgotten that the right to press charges lies entirely with me, and she also suspects that even the easygoing version of Ethan from before would pursue this, let alone who he is now. I'll be in touch later. First, I'll take Xavier and go see Ethan in person. See if there's any way to convince him not to move forward. She knows from recent experience that persuading me is far from easy, so she sees no point in sending the lawyer to try the call. Leaves Xavier's face dark. Setting aside the fact that I have already left a mark on him, psychologically, he is now expected to bow his head to the person he despises most, the one he would cheerfully see gone from this world. The very thought of it turns his stomach. Butler Hayes, standing nearby, is exhausted just watching this unfold from where he stands. Sending these two to persuade Ethan has almost no chance of success. Vivian still operates on the unconscious assumption that Ethan is the same person who never hit back, never talked back, or that outsiders will simply defer to the Moore name. Butler Hayes knows that the Ethan of today will not accept any of it. A man who has been told he is dying has no reason left to swallow his grievances, so, rather than watching them waste their time, the smarter move would be to approach the accuser directly and convince her to stay quiet about who put her up to it. But that is not something Butler Hayes is about to volunteer across town. In a coffee shop, Claire is in her work uniform, taking careful notes, the water ratios for the machines, every detail written down with precision. When she notices a table needs wiping, she is already on her feet before anyone asks the shop owner. Lu Jiayi thinks to herself that she has never seen a temp worker throw herself into a job like this. She has landed something rare. And right at that moment, the television mounted on the wall cuts to a news segment. Sienna Hart will be collaborating with Ethan Moore again on a new release. Claire, carrying a tray of drinks, gives a small involuntary jolt, and the tray tips, sending both drinks crashing to the floor. Glass shatters everywhere. Lu Jiayi startles badly. She is about to say something, but then she remembers the instruction. Sienna Hart had left her, and hurries over instead, first apologizing to the affected customer on Claire's behalf, then sending another staff member to clean up while she steers Claire away to the staff room once the door closes. Claire starts to apologize, but Lu Jiayi speaks first. You've clearly been running yourself into the ground. Go look at yourself yourself in a mirror. You don't look well at all. Here's what we'll do. You're going to leave early today. Go home and get some proper rest. When Claire hears this, she assumes she is being let go, and although she desperately needs this job right now after a mistake this serious, she cannot bring herself to ask to stay. But Lu Jiayi seems to pick up on something and asks carefully, keeping her voice low, "Are you going through something difficult right now? Is it a money problem? I can advance you this month's pay if that would help." Meanwhile, at Moore Estate, Vivian finishes her makeup and gets ready to leave for a meeting at one of her portfolio companies, an important one she cannot miss. Find me a necklace. It's in the cabinet at the very back, sitting on a black velvet pad. A while later, "Are you sure it's in the cabinet next to it? I've checked every single one. It's not there." The words stop Vivian cold. She goes completely still, and then she sees it, the empty velvet pad behind the glass. Whatever calm she had managed to rebuild collapses completely. The necklace is not worth a fortune, but it carries a significance to her beyond its monetary value. And what genuinely shocks her is that someone under this roof would steal from her. She calls Butler Hayes immediately. What Vivian does not notice is that Xavier, at the far end of the corridor, has seen everything, and his expression shifts into barely concealed panic on any other occasion. Xavier would not be this rattled, he might even own up to it, and take the scolding. But right now, he genuinely cannot afford to lose Vivian's trust or her willingness to shield him, so he turns and hurries back to his room 10 minutes later. Vivian tells Butler Hayes, who has come at a run, "A valuable necklace of mine has gone missing. I need you to find out what happened. Find out who took it." Butler Hayes pauses and the answer comes to him almost at once, but he does not say Xavier's room. That would be too direct, and would reveal that he had known something all along. He is just about to suggest checking the corridor footage when Xavier's voice comes from behind him. "Hayes, what kind of operation are you running here? You can't even keep track of a handful of staff? And now one of them has stolen my sister's necklace. I noticed some of them acting suspiciously earlier. My guess is it's somewhere in the staff quarters in the North Wing." Butler Hayes nearly loses his composure. He genuinely wants to say, "Keep performing like this, and I will tell her everything," but he swallows it. "This reflects a failure in my oversight. I sincerely apologize. I will search the staff rooms immediately." He has also made a quiet decision. If Xavier has planted the necklace in one of the staff rooms to frame one of them, then he will review the security footage afterward and hand it directly to Vivian. They make their way to the North Wing under Butler Hayes' direction. The household staff line up outside their respective rooms, waiting to be searched one by one. Just as Vivian is about to step into the first room, she glances at the staircase beside her, and something surfaces in her mind, perhaps to confirm the answer already forming there. She has Butler Hayes accompany her down the stairs, and they come once more to the room where I used to live the moment she steps inside. The same damp cold hits her because Hayes had cleared it out after her last visit. The room looks bare and hollow, having personally sorted through everything in here. Butler Hayes notices immediately that something has been disturbed. A thought comes to him at once. Sure enough, following the signs of disturbance, he finds the necklace tucked into the gap beneath the mattress. Butler Hayes thinks to himself that Xavier was actually quite clever this time. If he had hidden it in a staff member's room, the staff's denials and protests might have prompted Vivian to keep digging. But Ethan has been completely removed from this household. No matter how heavy the accusation placed on him, he has no way to defend himself. And in Vivian's mind, Ethan is exactly the kind of person she could believe would do this. She will simply assume that he was the one who took it 6 years ago. Backstage at a music show, after Sienna had proudly listed every songwriter she knew melody, she now recalls had smiled with quiet pride and said she knew someone called Mr. Vale. Sienna had never heard the name and had privately assumed it was some minor, unknown songwriter, or perhaps a name Melody had invented on the spot to save face. But not long after, Sienna understood exactly why Melody had smiled. Like that song after song swept the country, Melody was swarmed at every appearance, and the entire internet went searching for the mysterious figure behind hit after hit. Even Sienna's own mother at a public event had approached Melody with rare humility, hoping to secure a song written by Mr. Vale himself. Sienna had thought about it too, more than once, and now Mr. Vale is sitting right beside her, having written her this many songs. It feels like something out of a dream. "Ethan, was there something wrong with how I sang that?" Sienna had decided all 3 songs were strong and paid a deposit on the spot before bringing me to the studio to record one of them. I put on the headphones, listened for 2 seconds, and nodded. "Sounds good." Sienna can clearly see I'm not really paying attention. "Ethan, can you actually listen? I'll add more to the fee. 50,000 right now, transferred by my assistant." I sit up straight immediately and listen to the entire recording properly from the beginning. Genuinely, you sang it well. After saying that, I half expect her to think I am just saying it for the money, and I am already prepared to send the extra back. But instead, Sienna breaks into a genuine smile. "Thank you, Ethan. That actually means something coming from you. By the way, Claire seems to be dealing with something." Every nerve in me tightens. What happened? From what my staff told me, it sounds like there's some kind of difficulty at home. They didn't go into the details, but it seems she needs around 100,000. That's why she took a part-time job at the cafe. I take out my phone quietly and see her messages again, sitting there unread, and that dull ache moves through me again. Looking at those messages and thinking about what she has been carrying these past few days, everything in front of me goes briefly dim. "She seems to have removed you from her contacts." Sienna notices I am reaching for the transfer screen and says it gently. I go still, and the reality of it settles fully. Claire and I are truly done. I am not sure why, but a memory of a film we watched together surfaces. I look at Sienna with something I cannot keep off my face. Can you do something for me? Find a way to get 100,000 to her? Sienna hears him out and agrees without hesitation. On the other side of the city, Melody drives with no destination in mind. Hours later, something in her settles and she pulls over. The streetlights along the narrow road have come on, casting a warm amber glow. Melody walks alone, her shadow stretching long behind her. A radio broadcast she catches along the way brings back another memory. After she had made her proud little remark about knowing Mr. Vale, she and Sienna had walked out of the venue together. Melody had watched Sienna's parents step out of their car and pull their daughter into a warm embrace, and something complicated had moved across her face. She had wished, quietly, that Vivian would come for her too. Right at that moment, I had come walking up with a bicycle, calling her name. Too slow. I've already called a driver. Just go on ahead. She had said it and immediately turned away, waving me off. Thinking back on that now, Melody shakes her head slowly and murmurs to no one, "How could you look down on him like that? What gave you the right? He was willing to give you his entire life, and this is how you treated him." Melody's eyes slowly fill, grief spreading through her like something spilling. How could she have been that person? The brother who loved her most. How much had he quietly endured? Her pocket buzzes. Melody takes out her phone and looks at the screen and answers on the other end. Vivian's voice carries both concern and reproach. "Melody, why haven't you been answering? Do you have any idea how worried I've been? Come home. Stop making me worry like this." Melody's response is flat. "I'm not coming back." On the other end, Vivian's voice sharpens. "This is all because of Ethan, isn't it? What has he done to you? Someone like him doesn't deserve your sympathy. I just found out he was stealing from this family. Who knows how many times he did things like this before?" Melody's voice comes back sharp and immediate. "That is absolutely not true. Ethan would never do something like that. Why do you always assume the worst of him? You assumed it was him before too, and look how that turned out. I bet it was Xavier again." On the other end, Vivian hears Melody use that word about her own real brother, and the anger rises in her instantly. "Xavier is your real brother. Melody, I feel like I don't know you anymore. I am genuinely disappointed in you. Fine, I'll put the jewelry matter aside for now, but I have to deal with that woman's situation. If Ethan won't agree to drop it, there is no room for negotiation." Melody hears this and suddenly starts to cry. "Stop hurting him. You have no idea how much he suffered in this family, and now he is being torn apart by illness. He has 1 year left. How is he supposed to live it? I am begging you. He has suffered enough for one lifetime." Sometime later, I finish everything with the 3 songs, and it is already evening. I step out of a cab, and as I reach the entrance to the building, I see Melody from a distance. Her lips are pressed together, head bowed, her white shirt stained with what looks like wine hair, loose and disheveled, her whole expression hollow. When she hears me approach, she looks up. "Ethan, are you all right?" She barely finishes the question before the ache rises inside her. How could he possibly be all right? Her voice softens and she manages a trembling smile, but her eyes are bright with tears. "I went back to the hospital and you were gone. I was worried, so I came here." But I do not even look up, and my pace does not slow. "Ethan, I really need to say something to you." Melody reaches out and grabs the hem of my sleeve. She had braced herself for coldness, but seeing me ignore her completely brings that ache back with full force. I turn slightly and see Melody holding onto my sleeve, and a memory surfaces without warning. When I was a child, in her room, the time I had found those other children, there she had stood behind me just like this, eyes blurred with tears, small and frightened, clutching at my sleeve exactly like this, and I had stayed there to protect her quietly at her side until she became who she is today. The celebrated artist adored by so many, Melody feels me stop, and her heart speeds up. Whether as Ethan or as Mr. Vale, he had always been so gentle with her, always so attentive. Maybe she would hear him call her that again, but I pull away sharply. "Get away from me, Melody." The tears in her eyes gather fast and fall one after another onto her shirt. "Ethan, I know I was wrong. Vivian came to see you, didn't she? I will make sure she helps you." I push away the hand. She reaches out again. "What is wrong with all of you? Every time I tell you to leave me alone, you show up again to make me sick. Do you need me to go back and be your servant again before you're satisfied? How shameless can you get?" Melody's head goes blank. She can barely keep herself upright in this moment. The last remaining hope inside her shatters. She knows now that nothing she does will ever bring them back to where they were. Melody breaks down sobbing, the sound escaping her without control. Ethan will never call her that again. "Mom, I'm home." I unlock the door and find Sunny hunched over the table, working through her homework at a slow, scattered pace. When Sunny sees me, she scoops up all her papers with a happy grin and then pulls a stack of documents out of the drawer. "Stop putting your stuff in my drawer, okay? There's no room for my things." I smile and ruffle her hair. "Sorry, I'll be more careful next time." "Is this what you were looking for?" I pull a small capsule toy from my pocket. Sunny had mentioned once that a classmate had one of those twist-open toys with a little figure inside, and I had heard the envy in her voice, so I had picked one up at the supermarket on my way past Sunny's eyes light up completely. But then a flicker of hesitation crosses her face, as if she thinks a toy like this is too much of a luxury, and the smile dims a little. I think of the day after the first piano composition sold, when I had taken Sunny out for a proper meal. I had picked a buffet that was considered fairly expensive per head, with every kind of food imaginable: seafood, grilled meats, everything, and Sunny had gone straight for the fried rice and eaten almost nothing else. When she finally understood that everything was included in the price, her face had crumpled into an expression of pure devastation, because she was already completely full. I make a quiet promise to myself, never again. Your brother has earned a lot of money now. Things won't be as tight as they were before. Helen brings the food out from the kitchen, and the three of us sit down together. Helen has made a full spread. Looking at all of it, I eat in large, unguarded bites, and I realize something. Even now that I have left that place behind, some of what it did to me has not gone away. But that is all right, because as long as the three of us are here together, those wounds will fade in time. But before long, a sharp and urgent knock at the door shatters the warmth of the meal. I get up and open it, and the smile leaves my face at once. Ethan, I know you have grievances against our family, but whatever you feel, we were family once. I'm asking you to consider something. Vivian sees I am not moving aside and continues, I owe you an apology, truly. Because of decisions I made, you suffered during the years you spent with us. If you're willing, we can discuss compensation right now. After she says all of this, she has braced herself to be turned away, but I nod. Vivian's mind flicks to the missing necklace, and a cold thought moves through her, but she keeps it off her face. Then let's go inside and talk this through. I shake my head slowly. No need to come in. First, have the person behind you get on his knees and bow his head to the ground 3 times. Then drive him out of Moore Estate. Vivian realizes she has been played and her composure collapses. Ethan, I am trying to speak to you civilly. There has to be a limit to this. There you go again. You are relentless, like something that just will not come off, showing up every few days to make my life miserable. Vivian's face goes deep red, her voice shaking with barely contained fury. She opens her mouth and forces herself to swallow it. Bottom line, you cannot press charges against that woman, and even if you do, you will not drag Xavier into it. Xavier can apologize to you, but kneeling and bowing is out of the question. She pulls Xavier forward, signaling for him to offer the apology, but I close the door in their faces with a firm slam and call through it. I hadn't actually considered pressing charges against Xavier. Thank you for the idea. Across town, after a full day of work at the coffee shop, Claire does not go back to campus but heads home. Worn down to the bone, she pushes open the door and finds her mother on the phone, trying to borrow money. Empty bottles are scattered across the floor, and the sharp smell of alcohol fills the apartment. Claire understands immediately. Her mother has fallen back into it. In the year Claire was in her second year of high school, her parents had finalized their divorce, and her mother had started drinking heavily. One time they had fought over the drinking, and her mother had splashed half a can of beer over her clothes, afraid of being late for school. She had wiped herself down quickly and run out the door, only to be stopped at the gate by a strict security guard who refused to let her in because of the smell. She still remembers it clearly, how long she had stood there while people stared and laughed, until I had come to the gate with the homeroom teacher, explained the situation, and gotten her inside when she got home, and told her mother what had happened. Her mother had apologized over and over, swearing she would never drink again. And yet, here they are. Claire lets out a quiet sigh. She had seen this coming after the divorce. Beyond the drinking, her mother had also taken up gambling, following online tips and strategies during the day, and betting heavily at night. The first couple of years had been manageable. Her mother had come out of the divorce with an apartment and a settlement, and even without working, obsessing over bets all day, life had still functioned at some basic level. But yesterday, Claire found out suddenly that her mother had spent everything. The apartment had been mortgaged to the bank, and there was still $100,000 owed to people outside. If the debt is not repaid within the next 2 days, those people will show up and mark the door with red paint. It is this fear for her mother that had brought Claire rushing home, and now, seeing the state she is in, Claire knows she was right to be worried. You're home. Have you eaten? Do you want me to make something? Her mother speaks with a warmth that takes Claire completely off guard, and she actually struggles to her feet, moving toward the kitchen. Claire stands there, frozen, wondering briefly if she has walked into the wrong apartment. It has been a long time since her mother offered to cook for her, and in her memory, her mother's temper after drinking has always been explosive. So why is she being gentle tonight? Her mother finishes 2 simple home-cooked dishes and makes Claire a large bowl of noodles. As Claire eats, she feels a warmth she has not felt in a long time after losing Ethan and the sudden upheaval at home. Claire's world had felt completely dark, and this unexpected shift in her mother lets in the smallest thread of light. Mom, I've already found a part-time job. Don't worry about the money. We'll figure it out together. She does not finish. Her mother cuts in, the warmth gone. There's something I need to ask you to do. You remember Aunt Wang? You used to go to her place for dinner when you were little. Her eldest son graduated last year. He earns tens of thousands a month. She and I have talked it over carefully. We're going to arrange for you two to meet. She is already dialing. As she says it, Claire's voice goes flat. I have a boyfriend. She says it directly, wanting to shut it down fast without leaving any room, but her mother presses on anyway. It's just a meeting. What's the harm? Something clicks for Claire. Did you take money for this? The moment she says it, she catches the hesitation on her mother's face. Give it back. What am I to you? Have you ever actually treated me like your daughter? The tears are right there, but her mother does not relent. Her own voice goes soft and pitiful. Every single relative turned me away. Not one of them would lend me anything. If I had any other option, I would not be asking this of you. how can you do this to your own mother? Can you really sit back and watch me have nowhere to turn? The suffocating feeling closes in again. And what about me? You back me into a corner, and that's fine with you. She cannot stay in this room. For another moment, she goes to her room and locks the door behind her. Once it is done, she sinks down onto the edge of the bed, and a hollowness settles over her, as if no one in the world truly cares whether she exists. It feels like being handed a terminal diagnosis, not of the body, but of something deeper. In a way, the two are the same. Both strip away every reason to look forward to tomorrow. And then her phone rings. She has no desire to answer, but she glances at the screen. It is Liu Jiayi from the coffee shop. Is something wrong? Liu Jiayi's voice comes through bright and excited. You are my lucky star, Claire, I mean it. I just won the lottery. Claire blinks in her mind. Lottery tickets have always been a fool's game. But then Liu Jiayi says something else. You are genuinely a good person, Claire. I'll be honest, I did consider keeping it all. But we agreed. Half each. I keep my word. Claire goes completely still, and then it comes back to her. Liu Jiayi had actually mentioned something when she borrowed the money. Even though the money is from me, I absolutely cannot accept any winnings. But she had been cut off before finishing. Done. I've already sent it. I have to go. Claire stares at the transfer notification and goes completely still. 100,000. Back at my door, Vivian is still making noise outside. Ethan, if you have even a shred of conscience, open this door. Do you have any idea what has happened to this family because of you? Melody has left the house over you, and now you want to press charges against your own brother? Vivian shouts at the closed door standing inside. I nearly laugh at the absurdity of it. Real brother. The one who wants me dead, and not a single accusation she is throwing at me, makes any sense. I left the Moore family a long time ago, and she is still pinning things on me. If I do not set the record straight, I will not sleep tonight. I open the door again. Vivian mistakes this for a change of heart. Ethan, there are plenty of empty rooms at the estate. You can move in with your mother and sister, and then together, we can bring Melody home. One family living in peace. When Vivian was very young, her mother used to tell her often that a cold estate alone is not a home, it only becomes one when family lives there together, and that is what makes it warm. So, even though Vivian never truly saw me as real family for the sake of Celeste and the others, for the supposed wholeness of the household, Vivian had been willing to accept this outsider in name. As family, there are plenty of empty rooms. That one line cuts through whatever I was about to say. I lived in a basement for over a decade, and apparently, there were plenty of rooms available all along. Apparently, Vivian always knew that the basement was not the only unoccupied space in that estate. Go back to live under your hollow charity in that dark basement again? I believe people and animals should be kept separate. They absolutely should not be made to live in the same space. And while you're here, can you explain to me step by step exactly how I have been responsible for the chaos in your household? Have I reached out to you even once these past few days? You haven't changed at all. Still blaming everyone around you for everything. My tone is completely flat, but Vivian is on the edge of explosion, her whole body shaking and finding no words to fight back with. At that moment, something complicated moves across Xavier's face. He has heard enough to understand completely that I am not the person he can push around, and he clenches his jaw hard. I catch it immediately. What is that look on your face? I shove Vivian firmly to the side and then shove Xavier back hard. I am warning you. If you lay a single finger on my family, I will not let it go. Answer me. Don't pretend you didn't hear that. The suddenness of it and the intensity in my face genuinely frightens Xavier. He becomes acutely aware in this moment that the man in front of him has less than a year left, and he has no doubt that every word is meant. In fact, he is genuinely afraid I might act on it right now. He still has so much ahead of him. I am a dying man, and he cannot afford to trade places with one. So Xavier backs down on the spot. I would never do that. That is not who I am. Vivian is shaken too, and by the time she recovers, I've already slammed the door shut again, leaving behind one final line. If you are still there, I am getting a knife. The next day I get a call from the lawyer. He tells me that acting on Melody's behalf he has obtained a full confession from the woman who made the false accusation, and that due to a small incident along the way, she has been placed in detention that morning at the police station. I am escorted by an officer to the holding area, and the officer calls her out from where she is sitting, hunched in a corner. It is her first time in detention, and she has not slept. Her hair disheveled, her face drained and hollow. When she sits across from me, she starts crying. Please don't press charges. I made it all up. I know I was wrong. I let out a quiet, cold laugh. I seem to remember you writing in that post that if you were lying, may lightning strike you the moment you step outside. So when do you think your punishment is coming? She feels the humiliation of it deeply, and her composure breaks. Why won't you just let this go? Haven't I already apologized? Then why couldn't you leave me alone back then? Do you have any idea what kind of messages I received after you published that post? People told me to die. Have you ever felt what it is like to be attacked by countless strangers, while the people closest to you stop believing in you? The officer sitting nearby hears this and quietly nods. The internet may be a somewhat better place now, but back then all it took was an outrage-inducing headline with enough comments underneath, and people would pile on without a second thought. Then the next day the story would collapse, revealed as false, and the mob would scatter just as fast as it had formed. But the damage left behind stays with the person who was targeted. For a long, long time, something in what I say reaches her, and she begins to sense that I did not come here to settle things quietly, and she breaks into loud sobs again. I genuinely know I was wrong. I don't want to go to prison. Please don't do this. When I say nothing, she escalates. I haven't even finished university yet. My life hasn't properly started. Why are you being so relentless? You're going to ruin my entire life. You got called some names online. Did it actually hurt you? Why are you being so cruel to me? I laugh, cold and flat. I'm not your father. Whether you go to prison has nothing to do with me. When you published that post on someone else's orders, did you stop to think that it might ruin someone's entire life? She goes still, and it is not until she is back behind that door facing the very real possibility of being charged and sentenced, and hearing those words again in her head, that she understands for the first time just how far over the line she went when she had done it. She had genuinely not considered that she might be destroying the life of someone who had done nothing to her. One question. The person who paid you to make the accusation against me, was his name Xavier Moore? My words pull her back to the present. She's quiet for a long moment, and then nods slowly. I have the answer I came for, and I walk out. The lawyer is waiting outside and raises a hand in greeting. Need anything from me? I want to press charges against Xavier Moore. Are you able to handle that? He nods without hesitation. A year ago, it was Vivian Moore who brought me the original case. But I have worked far more closely with Melody over the years, given her profile, and the fact that I am paid to represent people's interests. That makes me think of what Melody had said to me last night. She had promised to help me, and this is what she meant. Then I'll leave it with you. I know his reputation, the most formidable lawyer in all of Riverdale. Having him build the case and file the charges gives the odds a significant boost, and the fact that he had already taken steps on my behalf, reaching out to the accuser before I even asked, tells me his intention to help is genuine. I'll get started right away. We already traced the account that sent money to the accuser, but that alone won't be sufficient. We'll need additional supporting evidence. He strides out of the station without another word. As I am about to follow, my phone buzzes. I take it out and see a message from an unknown number. Ethan, is this you? The 100,000. A sharp, piercing ache moves through me these past few days. I have been forcing myself not to think about it, not to revisit any of those memories, with Claire telling myself it is the only way to keep going, that someone in my position has no right to want that anymore. But just when I had started to believe I was managing, the moment I see this message from her, everything collapses back to nothing. I cannot forget her. I never could. It has to be you. You were there that day, weren't you? At the cafe. Why would you do this? The messages start coming faster. I'm so sorry about that day. I don't know what came over me. I don't understand why I pushed you. I really do love you. You have to believe me. I never wanted to hurt you. Where are you right now? Can we meet? I look at the messages on the screen, and the twisting ache comes back in full. I can feel her pain through every word. That girl who loves me this much had pushed me down onto cold ground with her own hands. This is all my fault. You did nothing wrong. Stop saying sorry. Stop hurting yourself over this. That familiar daze descends on me again. The first time was when I got the diagnosis. The second time was when I ended things, and now here it is again. A third time, the officer beside me notices I'm swaying and reaches out. Are you all right? But before the sentence is finished, I collapse backward without warning. When I open my eyes again, Dr. Reeves is sitting in the chair beside the bed, peeling an apple. You're finally awake. I take the apple and ease myself upright. Dr. Reeves, didn't you say this medication was supposed to prevent blackouts? It feels like they are happening more often, not less. The medication is fine. Trust the science. You have been going through intense emotional strain lately, haven't you? Extreme grief in particular is very likely what is triggering these episodes. He reads my face and knows he is right. I did tell you before. Try to keep your days as peaceful as you can. Living like this only accelerates the decline. Thank you, doctor. Take your medication on schedule. By the way, it was a police officer who brought you in. We didn't have a way to reach your family, so we contacted the person you were messaging. She should be here very shortly. The moment Dr. Reeves steps out, my composure falls apart. I have no idea how I am supposed to face Claire. A tangle of feelings rises in waves, pushing me to get up, pushing me to run. I pull on my shoes and step into the corridor and walk directly into Claire. Both our hearts are pounding, and for a moment, neither of us seems to breathe. She is warm and slight against me. Claire draws in a long breath, telling herself over and over what the situation is. Now she steels herself and moves to step back, but in the next instant, there is sudden noise and movement behind me. A short, middle-aged man who appears to have been drinking has been muttering complaints about being ignored by the staff for too long. A security guard senses trouble brewing and moves to intervene, but the moment he steps forward, the man's agitation tips over. He breaks into a run and charges directly toward my back with full force. I feel it and start to turn, but Claire has already wrapped herself around me and taken the blow. The security guard moves in at the same moment and subdues the man, quickly forcing him to the ground. My head is roaring and something moves through me that I cannot control. As I get up, I knock over a nearby medical cart, and when I see the scalpel on the floor, something in me reaches for it without thinking. I pick it up and close my hand around it and start walking toward the man being hauled away by security, and there is only one thought in my head. Then Claire's voice comes through, trembling, as nurses move her onto a gurney. Ethan, the silence that has swallowed me whole cracks open just slightly. I drop the scalpel and run to her. I'm here, but before she can say another word, the nurses are already moving, rushing her into the emergency room. The hours that follow are the longest of my life. A weight that will not lift presses down until I am shaking, and I cannot find my breath until the doctor comes out and says the bleeding has been controlled. She is out of danger, and for the first time in hours, I feel something like light. At that moment, in a room at Moore Estate, a television is broadcasting, "This afternoon, at the First Affiliated Hospital of Riverdale Medical University, a patient surnamed Wu, dissatisfied with wait times, attempted to jump the queue and was refused, subsequently lost control and attacked another individual with a blade, leaving one person injured. The case has multiple points under investigation. Police have launched an immediate inquiry." Xavier, sitting in the corner of the room, hears every word of the broadcast and cannot stop himself from shaking after my warning to him last night. His first response had been fear. But once he was back in his room, the fear had faded, and what replaced it was hatred. Hatred that I was still here at all, threatening the life he had fought so hard to take for himself. That hatred had sent his mind into an extreme state, and in that extreme state, Xavier had made the same kind of decision he had made 6 months ago. He had paid someone to put a knife in me, and now, with the possibility of exposure, his teeth are beginning to tremble, his face contorted with dread. Xavier runs through everything in his mind, checking whether he left anything exposed. There should not be a problem. The money had been paid. The banquet hall is blazing with light, and as a guest named Zhou Jianhong offers his compliments to Vivian, she maintains the composed bearing of Riverdale's wealthiest until Zhou Jianhong takes a sip of his wine and smiles, and in one offhand remark, punctures something that has been sealed for years. To be completely honest, the reason I invested in that company all those years ago was entirely because of something Ethan said to me. The hand holding Vivian's wine glass freezes mid-air. He was still the Moore family's ward back then. He told me that one day every computer in the country would be running that software. Zhou Jianhong shakes his head with a small sigh. That kind of vision, that understanding, it's no wonder, coming from someone you personally raised. In that instant, the noise and glitter of the room seems to drain away entirely, and all Vivian can hear is a dull roaring in her ears. Memories cut through her like a blade slicing through the wall of self-deception she had built, and she finally remembers the boy who had lived year after year in that cold, damp basement, standing at her desk again and again, laying out the future of an industry for her with complete seriousness. And what her response had been: contempt, dismissal, the certainty that an outsider could not possibly understand business. And yet those are the exact ideas she had discarded as worthless that are now holding up the Moore family's faltering commercial empire. "Mr. Zhou," Vivian's voice begins to shake, the composed elegance gone completely. She grabs his sleeve, eyes rimmed red. "Do you know anyone, any medical team that treats late-stage liver cancer?" The room falls into startled murmurs. "Please, help me find a way. I want to save my brother," Vivian pleads, stripped of every layer of pride, a tearing pain gripping her chest. She finally understands what Ethan gave to this family and what she destroyed with her own hands. "Have you lost your mind?" Xavier, standing nearby, can no longer bear the stares from every direction. He kicks over the expensive chair behind him and screams with red-rimmed eyes. "He has already been removed from the family register. A dying nobody with no connection to us, and you want to spend the family's money on him?" Looking at this face, twisted and snarling like a rabid animal, Vivian suddenly does not recognize him at all, and feels something close to pity. The rain outside grows heavier. Vivian sinks into her chair, eyes empty, staring at the shattered porcelain on the floor. "Be quiet," she murmurs in a voice full of a despair that has reached her very core. Without him, the Moore name would have been gone long ago. At the other end of the city, Ethan pushes open the worn, paint-chipped security door. The smell of pork ribs drifts from the kitchen. Sunny looks up from her desk, eyes bright, calling out, "You're back! Welcome home!" Ethan smiles and nods, however heavy the storm outside it has nothing to do with him anymore.